vulnerable 2.30 accessible.
Officer still stands for time? No. Offender in custody?
Good evening, everybody. Ooh, I can't wait. Can't wait for tonight. This is going to be a special first kind of thing for the show. Right now, we started a OJ25 members only live every Sunday at noon Central, 1 o'clock Eastern. We get together for a members only live, and we're kind of going to be going over the OJ case, the OJ25 special, with some stuff in the beginning of each episode and a lot of stuff at the end. And it's going to be a multi-part series where actually from this month, next month, the month after, so 3.5 months, probably at least every Sunday, we will be having our members only noon Central, 1 o'clock Eastern. But what I wanted to do as well is for those where, you know, either you're not gifted or it's even hard to get a membership, I also wanted to include you all. So what we're doing is we had our episode 2 today on our members only, episode 2. And so what we're going to start doing is on Sunday nights, for those who aren't able to be part of the members only lives that we have Sunday during the early day, then we're going to replay the previous week's episode of the OJ special for everybody. And that's what we're doing tonight. So that's what it's going to be something special where we have our members only lives. And then for everybody that, you know, it's a hard economy out there, I want you guys to be able to participate as well. It's going to be a little different than a live show, though. Okay. What I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be replaying the whole episode in its entirety. So last week with episode 1, we had SilkySTea and Yolie on the show. So you're going to hear me talking. You're going to see us talking on the show, but it's not really going to be me talking tonight. I'm going to be hanging out with you guys in chat. So I will be typing away with everybody in chat, hanging out with you guys in chat. We're going to watch last week's show, episode 1. So I just wanted to let everybody know that, because I know sometimes people think that I'm talking like tonight, and it's not tonight. I'm going to be hanging out with all you in chat. I want to say a special shout out to Law Offices Andrew D. Myers, Laney Law. Thank you. Appreciate the shout out. Thank you, Caddy Crime, for the wonderful question that you asked them in that episode as well. But they gave me and Harsh a special shout out at the end of the episode. So shout out to them. Thank you so much. I appreciate the kind words. And really, anytime that they would want to be on the show, we would love to have them. Tomorrow morning, we're going to be back to Idaho 4 tomorrow morning. So in the daytime, I'll be doing a show, Idaho 4. We're going to be playing that latest episode that they had. A lot of good questions, and it's nice to hear other people actually mention the questionable things that are out, when it comes to this case. So I appreciate their hard work as well. Laney, I love the guitar in the video games. And Andrew, I love the Justice neon you have on the wall back there. I love all that stuff. It's good stuff. Personality. Also, shout out to Harsh. Whenever he's able to, he's going to be joining us on one of these OJ. I would love to have Harsh on each one of these. I think it'd be wonderful, because he asks a lot of the same questions that we do. And I think even having him up on panel while we're going through one of these members only lives, I think it would be really interesting. Just not, because like you'll see as we watch this episode, there's stuff that we didn't even realize. Like today, there was something I just didn't even know on episode 2. But on some of these episodes, you're gonna forget some. Oh gosh, I forgot about. Or holy crap, I didn't even know that. It's gonna be very crazy, interesting too, especially with how everything was handled. It's very. There's a lot more similarities than people realize. So I'm gonna be hanging out with you guys in chat. This is gonna be the first time I'm gonna say hello, and then obviously you'll see me in a different hoodie when we're doing the show. So this is the hoodie tonight. It's the black Adidas hoodie, okay? I think that one I had a gray hoodie. So thank you everybody for joining. We'll go ahead and say hello, and then we'll go ahead and play the episode. And thank you to all the members as well for hanging out there. And the conversations are awesome, in the show. It's so cool. What's up, Kelly Miller? Thank you. Appreciate that. We got Tracy. What's up? And again, this is from the members only live stream from last weekend. What's up, MK? How are you? Mama 5, Kib Kitty, Kevin Kraft. Actually, we bumped this show back 15 minutes than when we usually have the show, because usually it's about 6:30 Central, and we started tonight at 6:45. I wanted to make sure that we had enough time in between Harsh's live and our live over here. I'm a mod for Harsh, so I like to make sure that I'm always available from beginning to end in his shows, just to make sure that I can be there to support and just greet everybody, show everybody some love, and What's up, Thomas? How are you doing tonight? Thank you. Sherlock Kendra. Great questions. Love having you in here. Thank you for your conversation. Aquarius, how are you doing? Nina, you hit the nail on the head. Oh, you're worse tonight. Oh, this sick bug, everybody. I feel so bad, man. And I got hit with it like a couple months ago, and It ain't nothing compared to what you guys are going through. Jeez, Bianca, ticket number 13. I can't imagine. Katrina, thank you for hopping in. Appreciate you. Hey, Mama Five. Let's vote to get Medicare to pay for obesity treatments. That's today's ad. Hey, it's better than ShamWow, right? What's up, Dre? Yeah, for real. The sickness is going crazy out there. Woo. Oh, thank you, Kib Kitty. Appreciate it. It's not showing me again. StreamYard, for real? You're still doing this? Here, hold on. Is it YouTube or no? It's StreamYard. Sherlock Kendra was gifted. Nick Giles, Paula, Deborah, and Ruck all got a membership from Kib Kitty. Thank you. I don't know why StreamYard's not showing it. What's up, Sandy Toes? What's up, Carrie? I'm so excited to get into this tonight. Tabby, thank you for hopping in. D. Marie, ticket number 16. Thank you so much. Yeah, I could. Oh, I'm telling you, like after episode 2, I wish every episode was a. Every Sunday, members only. Noon Central, 1 Eastern, and every Sunday for everybody. Previous week's episode, 6:30, 6:45 Central, depending on when Harsh's live gets done. All right, here we go. So, OJ25 Episode 1. Again, this is last week. I'm going to be hanging out with y'all in chat. You're going to see I got a different color hoodie on, so it's not me talking tonight. I'm going to be talking in chat. We're going to let the stream go in its entirety, which is about 3 hours, maybe 2.5. And then we'll go ahead and hop in, and I'll hop back in at the end of the show, and we'll go ahead and chit chat. So if you have any questions that you want me to answer, and if I don't answer them, let me know towards the end of the show, and I'll make sure that I answer them. But I'm going to be hanging out with y'all in chat. It's going to be crazy. Usually I don't do this. It's going to be crazy, but I can't wait to rewatch episode 1. It's good, y'all. All right, give me 1 second. We'll get it set up. Thank y'all for hopping in. Please hit the like if you haven't yet. It's a free way, and here we go. So excited. Here we go, everybody.
As a footballer, there was none better than O.J. Simpson. As a human being, many would argue there aren't too many worse. It's 22 years since Simpson was famously charged with murdering his former wife, Nicole Brown, and her friend, Ron Goldman. The court case, an 8-month spectacle fueled by the public's obsession with celebrity, ended with the jury's not guilty verdict. A civil court later found Simpson was liable for the deaths and ordered him to pay more than $30 million in compensation. In 2008, O.J. Simpson was jailed for 33 years after a botched armed robbery in Las Vegas. It's likely he'll be paroled next year, but the story of this one-time American hero is now Hollywood fodder. And for the victims' families, it's a story that only continues to haunt them.
I love 60 Minutes Australia. They do such an amazing job. Shout out to them. When he got 33 years, some said that was karma, right?
It's 6:30 in the morning, and I get awakened to this horrific scream. Like, I can't even explain it.
Tanya Brown was just 24 years old when her family's world fell apart.
Wow.
And I saw my mom sitting at the kitchen table, white, just like her soul was just taken away.
The family had just received a call to tell them her older sister Nicole had been viciously stabbed to death.
I went to the bathroom, and there was my dad with the his head on his forehead, and he was just pounding the sink.
And again, this is OJ25. This is going to be the whole series is going to have graphic content in it, the whole series. So it's going to always be up in that top right corner of the screen. But just keep in mind, they are going to show pictures. They are going to talk about things. It was a brutal crime, and it has, you know what I mean? So it's going to be one of those series, just as a heads up.
And I said, Daddy, is it true? Is she dead? And he went, yeah. And from then on, it was just everything changed. Everything changed.
35-year-old Nicole Brown Simpson, the former wife of NFL star OJ Simpson, and her friend Ron Goldman were found dead outside her home. Their brutal murders became instant news. The thing that struck me is how horrific it must have been to see this on television.
Oh, yeah. I just remember standing in the living room, and my mom and I, we were holding hands, and there was Nicole's body covered by a sheet. All I heard was my mom, she squeezed my hand and she said, "That's my kid."
What followed was this. O.J. Simpson tried for the murders in a court case that divided a nation and captivated the world.
Mr. Simpson, would you please stand and face the jury?
An extraordinary 8-month-long trial that ended with Simpson's acquittal.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Orenthal James Simpson, not guilty of the crime of murder in violation of Penal Code Section 187.
Watched live on television by hundreds of millions of people.
A murder in the first degree or second degree to be not true.
Oh my God. Do you remember that day?
I want to play that again real quick. I'm just going to pause it minimally here. I want to ask you guys a question. The verdict is read. He looks like more in absolute shock that he's hearing not guilty, not that he's excited that his friend is found not guilty like his lawyer behind him.
And captivated the world.
Mr. Simpson, would you please stand and face the jury?
An extraordinary 8-month-long trial that ended with Simpson's acquittal.
We, the jury, find the defendant, Orenthal James Simpson, not guilty of the crime of murder in violation of Penal Code Section 187.
Watch.
Yeah, he looks shocked. He looks surprised. You got Johnny tapping him on the back of the shoulder, and he's just like,
live on television by hundreds of millions of people.
He's just like, what?
Or second degree to be not true.
Oh my God. Do you remember that day?
Oh, yeah.
Lord.
I was just sitting there, that anxiety just in my chest, in my stomach, and sweaty hands. I remember sitting on the edge of the seat, just going like this, just, I couldn't breathe.
O.J. Simpson was the all-American hero, The football star turned actor.
Hiya, buddy.
He became a trusted public face. When he and Nicole married,
And she turned those years into some of the best years I've had in my life, babe.
they
Up,
were
Deborah.
the glamorous celebrity couple, and with their children, a perfect family. But what many didn't know was that O.J. Simpson had been repeatedly beating his wife.
911 emergency.
Can you get someone over here now to 325 Gretna Green? He's back.
And even after they divorced, it didn't stop.
Please. Okay, what does he look like?
He's O.J. Simpson.
This frantic emergency call made by Nicole just 8 months before her murder.
You're going to hear him in a minute. He's about to come in again.
Okay, just stay on the line.
I don't want to stay on the line. He's going to beat the shit.
Wait a minute, what is he doing there?
He just drove up again.
He just drove
me
up.
over.
Okay, wait a minute, what kind of car is he in?
He's in a white Bronco. But first of all, he broke the back door down to get in.
Okay, wait a minute, what's your name?
Nicole Simpson.
Okay, is he the sportscaster or whatever?
Yeah.
You had your fingers around her throat, correct?
I could have touched her neck, yes.
At the
I
civil
could have
trial
touched her
brought
neck.
against him by the victims' families, O.J. Simpson disputed punching his wife, but admitted to being violent.
You never hurt your wife either,
He-
correct?
No, I hurt my.
He could have touched her neck. Well, you did a hell of a lot more than that, buddy. What the fuck?
My wife, yes.
You never struck her with your hands,
I
correct?
never punched her, yes.
You ever strike her?
No,
You ever hurt her?
yes.
You ever physically hurt her?
Yes,
You ever bruise her?
yes.
You ever make her black and blue?
When you reflect now, what kind of life did your sister actually live?
My sister was treated like a circus animal on many occasions, but she hid it so well.
You said she was a prisoner.
She was She was in her own prison.
I know we're talking about your sister, but what about Ron Goldman? Do you think about...
All the time. You know, and I'm glad you raised that because domestic violence doesn't just affect the victim. You know, I mean, look at Ron. He was an innocent bystander.
What many believe was a case of vicious domestic violence is now Hollywood entertainment. The O.J. Simpson story is an industry.
All right. He's a black man being haunted by the police.
And 22 years later,
I can't go to jail.
TV shows and documentaries about him are more popular than ever.
Bronco's gone.
The latest offering features Simpson's manager, close friend, and confidant, Mike Gilbert. What did you love about O.J.?
His kindness, his being approachable to the fans.
For almost 20 years, Mike Gilbert's job was to build upon and protect the football hero's public image. What did America love about him?
He was a hero that knew what it meant to be a hero.
Was he also the black man who conquered the white world?
Oh, absolutely. And I think back, before OJ, there had never been a black person that was a national spokesperson.
If it doesn't fit, you must acquit.
But at the time of the trial, racial tension was bubbling over in Los Angeles. Many believe it contributed to O.J. Simpson's favorable outcome.
Simpson not guilty of the crime of murder in violation of Penal Code Section.
But this horrific moment in history, Mike Gilbert says, might have been prevented if many had stepped up, including him. You said you never particularly liked Nicole, and she didn't particularly like you.
She was a player's wife. My job was to take the player away from the family, speaking engagements, endorsements. Nicole wanted OJ to be home, be with the kids. She wanted a family. And I couldn't see that. I couldn't identify with that because my task is make money for my client.
So she was an impediment.
Absolutely. I didn't dislike her. I disliked that she was a competitor of mine. It's Coke and Pepsi, you know, it's like, you're my competitor.
Look, in just moments, the instant return computer prints out your...
Wow, that's crazy. he was like, it's my job. I mean, he's honest. It's my job to take them away from the family.
But to call her a competitor? Wow.
He's an agent. He's a, it's true. Like, it's like you hear about the stories on Wall Street, They live at their office.
Wow.
I mean, hell, it's like me. I live at my fucking desk. I do. As soon as I get up, I'm at my desk doing work. As soon as I'm done, go to bed.
I get it.
I just need to relocate to somewhere where it's just like one room, That's it. Why pay for all this other shit, right? But yeah, wasn't the Rodney King trial before this, right?
Yes.
So that's where a lot of the
Yes,
a lot
it was
of that they
before
were
this.
saying that's because of that trial. Then they're saying that trial had an effect on this one.
Yeah, because of the one of the cops in the Rodney King, they were beating him up, and people had a bad review of the LAPD.
Yeah, because they were. It was bullshit. I mean, we all saw the video. It wasn't.
Oh yeah.
It was not. It was not cool.
Do you think that's what, like, even on a subconscious level, do you think that's why the jury came back with the verdict, like giving, because he was a person of color? Do you think they were leaning more towards giving him the benefit of the doubt because of Rodney King?
Well, it's like this. This is why I was so excited to start this today, because I'm going to use Idaho 4 as an example, right? So whether BK's touched DNA is on the sheath or not, right? The reason I talk about the Brady Giglio, about somebody potentially being on that chain of custody or having touched that sheath, right? What if that person did falsify in a previous trial investigation?
Yeah.
Then you have to question the sheath, even though it's BK's, right? And I think the reason I reference that is because when you look at Mark Furman,
Yes.
the fact that you had to question, again, you have to question an officer, and when you have to question an officer, then all of a sudden, whether, that was OJ's glove, right?
Mhm.
But because, and what if the sheath is BK's? But when you have to question an investigator that had interaction with that specific item, then all of a sudden it can change the case completely. And so I think when it came to that, that's when it was like, well, we have to question this shit then, like if you sat in the trial, the jury's going to be in the same situation that Idaho 4's jury's going to be in. It's going to be a whole bunch of brand new DNA techniques and investigative processes and all these things, and it's going to be a new technology because before it was just DNA. Now all of a sudden it's like all these terms and you're trying to follow, and it's all these crazy numbers. Before it was very, but back then it was just as new as what this DNA is today. So when it comes to the trial and being in that trial, you could probably say, you know what, like there's red on the Bronco, like you just go through everything and it's like, yeah, like the dude probably did it, and especially if you look at what we were just watching here a second ago with the past history of the physical. To look at the timeline of events, because it'll go through the timeline of events, to go through opportunity, to go through other people's eyewitness statements, the thud, all of these different things, the cut, the shadiness. He comes back, next thing you know, he's driving away in a frickin' Bronco. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
Scott Peterson didn't even do that, yo. He took off and he was trying to golf in Arizona with a blonde goatee. He wasn't taking off in a freaking police chase, threatening to unalive himself because he wanted to go. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many things that was just like, yo. And then Mark Furman, and credit to the defense, because that's what the defense is supposed to do. They're supposed to poke holes. And they poked a big fucking hole.
They did. And I tell you, at the time when this happened and I was watching, I did not, because of that, exactly, because of Mark Furman, even more so than the glove, because of Mark Furman, I honestly had a reasonable doubt. Now I look back and I'm like, ugh, I don't think that people also understood DNA. Like, I don't remember in the trial them saying things like there's, what the small percentage it could have been or it was for somebody else to do it. It's like, yeah, there's DNA, but it was very sketchy.
His DNA was there at the crime scene.
Yeah.
Like, it was there.
But then there were things like the fingerprint on the back gate, the back gate. That wasn't discovered until 3 weeks later. So then you add things like Mark Furman into the situation, and it's like, what's any of this planet? Like, you have to doubt.
There's your doubt. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, did a guilty man go free? Probably. Now looking back on it, I mean, I can't be 100% sure, but he's sure sketchy, but at the time, and just like you said, CJ, when you have people who are shady and sketchy and they've done things like this before, then you have to question, is this a plant? Is this really happening? Did it really happen that way, or is he innocent? And that's the thing, you don't want to sentence someone potentially have the death penalty, depending on what state you're in. That's a heavy load, because as we know, some people on death row have later been exonerated. Well, that doesn't do them any good then.
No. And the glove was a very interesting moment because, if the prosecution was smart, why are you going to use the same glove that's already shrunk from liquid?
Yeah.
And then you're going to have him because obviously he has to wear a latex glove. So you're trying to tell me a latex glove through a dried up leather glove, and you're supposed to be able, because leather gloves are already tight.
Yeah,
that's what they're meant for. They're already tight. So yeah, it was obvious from the beginning he was going to have problems trying to fit it in, and then you add the little acting job that he did.
Yeah,
was definitely a moment that should have been the prosecution. I don't know what the hell. I think they got too confident, and they didn't entertain other theories. This is another reason I reference Idaho 4. When it comes to this case, they didn't entertain any other theories of maybe someone else being with him.
Right.
And when we get to the very end of the show, or the multi-series, I'm going to play that video, and you're going to see, like, the way that OJ talks about how if he did it, this is how it would have went. when you hear that, you're like, holy fucking shit, that's how it fucking went. Like, and then you understand how everything took place, where it took place at the scene of the crime, because with how small that area is, with the brutality of it,
Yeah.
it also didn't make sense how somebody could, especially with OJ being the age he was and the arthritis problems he was having.
Right.
That's it's pretty crazy. Just like Idaho 4, it's the brutality, how they left the crime scene, nobody knows. There's no DNA. Like, there's all these, like, how it's, these things that just don't make sense about it being one person. And I think that's where the prosecution for Idaho 4 is fucking up, because I think that they're just looking at a one-person theory because they wanted to get it hurried up charged. They don't want any other but the unfortunate thing is I think because of that, it's not doing the community any justice.
No. And I mean, that's the thing. Could one person have done it? I guess they could have. It just seems to me, and I think the jury may end up thinking this too. How do you do this as your first, murder? We're private, right? I can say that word on YouTube in this group.
Well, I'm gonna be opening it up in the future, but
okay.
It's fine. I'm not worried about it.
But that's the thing is, if you haven't done this before, you're just going to go in and take away 4 people. It seems a little to me. I have to at least take a second thought. Could you do that on your first time? I don't know.
Well, I mean, you got to remember, like, in the OJ case, people just heard a dog,
Yeah.
Yeah, they did. They only heard the dog.
So, excuse me. That's another thing. You got a close area. You got 2 people right there. There was nobody even heard an argument. Like, there wasn't even an argument being heard. To me, I always thought that he got pissed off, showed up because he showed up before, peeping through windows to see who she was with.
Mm-hmm.
And this time, it was one of them things where she was inside, probably with this dude, and he maybe threw a rock at a window or something, and that got her to come out. Next thing you know, that takes place, and then the dude comes out, not knowing, he's sitting there waiting. She doesn't come back in. He obviously would walk out, not trying to be, like, cautious or anything, and then walk out, see what's in front of him, and then all of a sudden there's a struggle that takes place real quick, and then he's off to the side. The mixture was everywhere, and the fact that nobody heard anything other than a dog, which would be the dog noticing, that's it. None of it makes sense. And for one person, that's the only thing that makes sense for one person. Just distractions.
Yeah.
And catching people off guard. Other than that, how does nobody hear even a scream, from either one before anything happens? That's what always was crazy to me, is nobody even heard an argument or a yell or nothing. Just the dog.
Well, I thought that, okay, and I could be wrong, but I thought that basically Ron Goldman had just got there to bring back, what was it, her glasses or something. He came back to the house. I was under the impression that he never actually entered her house. that he was caught right there.
That's the impression. But who's to say he wasn't inside talking to her?
It's true.
Because I'm going to, like, think about it like this. Say you're Ron Goldman, right? And you walk up and she's already on the steps. Do you not turn around and yell and scream for help?
Absolutely.
Nobody heard that.
Exactly.
That's why I think Mr. Goldman was inside talking to her. He showed up, got jealous because he saw her talking in the window, created a distraction. Tink! She's not going to know it's OJ, right?
Right.
Tink! Something's going to get, or a knock on the door, and then he walks away, and then she comes out, walks around, looks around, steps down the steps, looking around because somebody knocked. Turns around. Next thing you know, he comes up behind her from around the corner of the door and does what he does. And then Ron Goldman's standing in there going, okay, well, I got to go back to work. I just came by to drop these off or whatever, or home or whatever. Walks out thinking that he'd see that, because last thing he knows, somebody knocked on the door. She doesn't see anything. She went to go look, and he's just standing there being a gentleman waiting. And then next thing you know, he's like, wait a minute, she should have been back in by now. What's going on? Walks out there. Next thing you know, caught off guard.
What about this?
Yeah.
What about like you said, they're inside talking and he does cause a distraction. They look out the window and see OJ. Okay, now they've both seen OJ, so OJ can be identified. What if, she's like rolling her eyes and she's like, oh God, he's going to have a fit. What if Ron goes out and says, let me talk to him? Ron goes out first and OJ just, does away with him. And then she comes out not knowing, not seeing that. I mean, what do you think?
I feel like if Ron Goldman went out there, she would have followed him.
Even if she was scared, even if he had said, Nicole, stay here, let me go talk to him and try to explain, I'm just here for glasses and I'll leave. I mean, I just wondered, like, who actually was the first one? Because whoever was assaulted or killed first would be definitely, I would think they would get this strong. But Nicole, weren't her injuries worse? Am I remembering that right?
Yeah, she had injuries to the back of the skull and then on the neck. I don't know the exact. If you do, Yolie, let me know. There was no calls. Kids weren't woke up. The dog didn't bark. Nobody heard a struggle. Nobody heard an argument. To me, it just, I don't know. I don't feel like she would have left him out there alone. I think because she was pretty headstrong too, and I think she would have went out there just to add more, not only to leave him in an uncomfortable position, but at the same time to be there just to support for him standing up for her, because if you're in fear, right?
Yeah.
Then you think you're talking physical. And so I think you would want to be there in case something physical did happen, so that way you could also be a witness.
Yeah.
If Ellie had to show up and you're like, yeah, I saw him. OJ hit him, and that's who hit him first, and all that other stuff. I think, I don't know. How do you think it went, Yolie? I think she came out first and then he followed. What do you think? How do you think it went down?
It was so long ago. It was so long ago that my memory, it's hard to remember exactly. But I do remember that the dog was out loose or had been barking. And Akina, I think the dog's name is Akia or something like that.
Like a husky or something?
Yeah. And so the dog was out in the neighborhood and they heard like some barking. And I'm trying to remember something, but it wasn't anything that was suspicious. It was like after the fact they said, "Oh, I heard something," but nothing like yelling or screaming as far as I can remember. And I think that OJ probably, whoever did the crime probably, stabbed him in the lungs because then they can't scream,
That's
like in the lung area.
Yeah, that's why I don't think
That would
anybody
quiet
heard
them.
Nicole.
Or maybe the neck, they slice their,
Well, that's why
up.
they do it.
Yeah. So I think that
that's why
maybe that's probably how they do the throat. Yes. Thank you, Detective Gold.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. When she walks
Yeah.
out, it's a distraction. She's not going to say anything because, but yeah, of course, that's what they do, right? When they're using that, that's the point, is so that nobody makes any noise.
Yeah, I mean, well, they found the dog, didn't they? The dog was running around loose because didn't they say they were like somebody saw the dog and he had the
Blood
stuff on his
Yeah, it was all
Yes.
yeah, he had trampled through it. So I mean, in that case, the door, I don't know where the dog was. Was the dog in the house? If he was, the door was definitely left open.
I don't know if the door was left open. I know they said the kids were still asleep upstairs. Y'all are gonna make me keep this on a members only.
I know.
Oh my lord!
Have we violated? Darn.
No, I was gonna open it up to the public. Woo! All right, but I was gonna delay it. All right, so I'm gonna get back to this this episode here, and then we'll get into that first. We also have a Harsh Live coming up in 3 hours, so we're gonna go about 2.5 more, and then we're gonna go hang out with Harsh, and then we're gonna be doing a game night tonight too. So I'll set the live after this is over, but the time's gonna change depending on when Harsh is done. So this is the rest of 60 Minutes Australia, and then we're going to get into the first episode of the OJ25 from Court TV.
OJ's fame and fortune, Mike Gilbert claims, clouded everyone's judgment about the domestic violence many knew of or suspected.
That too, Root.
OJ pulled the knife across Nicole's throat, but everybody that sent her back, everybody that didn't, just pull her out, everybody contributed.
Everybody who didn't speak to OJ.
We're all guilty. We're all guilty for June 12th. OJ is the guy that went to trial. But you know what? In all of our hearts and all of our
What's
minds,
up, Danny?
We all know.
It's going to be a graphic content the whole time anyway, because they're going to say the same stuff anyway, so. Oh, well. Just fingers crossed.
It's hard to talk about this one without getting graphic. Really.
It is. It's a good thing it's members only right now anyway.
Yeah, I'm staying.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm doing a members only on my channel tonight at 6, and I'm keeping it lighthearted. So.
Yeah. What are you talking about?
Well, actually, joining the Flora 4 Foundation, and I'm going to put some merch up there, so I'm going to ask their opinions.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and because I've added a slogan to my channel, and then we're going to talk about the 16 personalities. Have you ever taken that test to find out what you are? It's really helpful.
Oh yeah, it was part of a management thing I had to do where it was like a billion questions, and it
yeah.
Tells you your strengths and weaknesses, and
it's very helpful. What are you?
Yeah.
Do you remember?
I don't know. It was a report that was about that thick. I already know. You know what I mean? I read it and I'm like, yeah, that's pretty spot on.
I Yeah. Oh, mine's spot on too. And I'm an INFJ, which is one of the rarest personality types. But it explains to me a lot of things where, my weaknesses, especially that, and why I am like I am. And it helps when you're looking for things that, if I know my strengths, so that didn't really help me a whole lot. But when you're looking at your weaknesses, then you're aware of,
Mhm.
the potholes that you can get into. And I certainly can fall into potholes.
Mhm. Oh, everybody can. We're human, but it's knowing and then getting better. That's all.
Yeah, because an INFJ is like I guess they think of them like the quiet type, the ones that don't say anything. And so I never really thought that I was. I was like, oh, this test is crap. But that's not true. They're kind of dual personalities, or they can be. So I'm like, oh, okay, I get it now. I understand why I have to go bury myself in a hole. I don't like it for that reason. I like it for just personal growth, I guess.
Well, yeah, exactly what I was thinking. Yeah, they couldn't do it because of double jeopardy, so they could only do a civil trial. Because he was found not guilty, so they can't charge him for the same thing. So the only thing that they could do was go after a civil trial, and then they won in the civil trial. But then he moved to Florida and did other things, so that way he could move his money without having to pay the damages from the civil trial.
Mm-hmm.
And that's part of the reason why he got in trouble for the robbery, was because he was living in a state where he didn't have to pay the damages based off of how he was making his money. And then at the same time was selling his memorabilia under the table, so he could still make a living, but you couldn't track it. And because you couldn't track it, then the families couldn't get paid the damages. So what happened is he was in Vegas and he was trying to get some of his memorabilia back that somebody had stolen from him. And so he basically held them up because it was all under the table, basically held them up. And then he got busted for that and got hit real hard. And we'll see that sentencing at the end of this show too, because it'll be it's going to be like a beginning to the end kind of thing. And you'll see what the judge says. She makes a reference to his past. So it's almost like it was like a karma sentence in a way.
Yeah, it really was.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen he's been on some recent interviews talking about a lot of stuff lately, and he did you hurt her? This, that, yes, no, yes, yes. It's like, wow, man.
I might have.
It's crazy.
Looks haggard.
OJ Simpson was a sociopathic gentleman. He had to have control of everything.
The last Simpson before the murders, even though he was a friend of Nicole, he was staying in OJ's guest house, and on that night shared a meal with his star landlord.
he said he was going to get something to eat, and I invited myself. And I could see by his reaction that he wasn't too happy about me inviting myself. And there was just a very, very long pause. And then he said, okay, you can go. You can come along.
You're one of the few people to see him prior to the murders and get a sense of how he was in those pivotal hours beforehand.
Right.
How would you have summed him up at that point?
He was a man in thought, and he seemed very sad. There was no dialogue. He just looked like he would be staring off in space. One of these looks while he's driving. He definitely was in thought, and something just wasn't right.
Cato Kalin was a witness for the prosecution, giving evidence about what he saw and heard on the night.
Can you demonstrate for us how loud it was?
Somewhat, yes.
Go ahead. Here. Yeah, go ahead.
But the trial saw him mocked and humiliated in the media. He became a punchline, dubbed a freeloader, a ditz, and the pool boy. Well, it became a show, a spectacle.
It became a soap opera. It became a soap opera with characters, and everybody had their characters.
And what was your character?
My character was comic relief.
Did you know where he was at 9:45?
No.
Did you see the defendant at 9:50?
No.
Did you see the defendant at 10:45?
No.
Did you see the defendant at 10:50?
No.
All these years later, he remains deeply affected by the case. Does it haunt you? Those few hours?
It haunts me. Yeah, it haunts me very much. It's been almost 22 years. The woman that I date, anytime I drop her off, I make sure that I know exactly what was on the radio at a certain time. I make sure that I see a car.
Whoa.
I write down, I saw this car at 11:12.
Wow.
Everything I revolve around time, and so I know exactly where I am if anything else will happen in my life. It's very bizarre, and it's a terrible way to live, and that's what I do.
The vehicle is registered to Al Cowling, a former teammate, close friend of O.J. Simpson's, who has been a fugitive from justice now almost 12 hours.
Wow.
Of all the images during what was dubbed the trial of the century, it is the vision of this white Bronco that most remember.
It's apparent that the police believe it.
Well,
and
it's
that
not
is
great.
Cowling's car, and that Simpson is in the driver's seat. We've received a report of a gun in the car. The car is
3 days after the murders, O.J. Simpson, now a wanted man, led authorities on a low-speed police chase along a Los Angeles freeway. The Bronco was driven by O.J.'s friend, A.C. Cowlings.
Right now, we're okay, but you gotta tell the police to just back off. He's still alive, so he got a gun to his head.
And every moment was carried live on television.
Seems to know they've been recognized.
And he stared us down like he was dead.
In fact, it said that it is the second most viewed vehicle in world history, behind the car that President Kennedy was assassinated in.
I believe that. I think the world was glued to this Bronco. Today, the infamous white Bronco is owned by Mike Gilbert. A lot of truth, it seems now, might have been going on inside this Bronco.
Absolutely.
AC seemed to know much more than he ever let on.
Oh, he knew. He knew.
And he knew, in your opinion, that OJ was guilty.
Oh, yeah, we knew.
Cowlings had driven OJ to Nicole's gravesite, where it was claimed he was going to commit suicide. But OJ didn't, and he was now heading home, armed with a gun, and still threatening to kill himself.
Not a high-speed pursuit.
The Bronco chase? Your dad actually tried to talk OJ into not committing suicide.
Yeah.
What an incredibly generous position to take.
That's how I was raised. I'm a blessed girl.
Count 1, conspiracy to commit a crime. Guilty. Count 2, conspiracy to commit kidnapping. Guilty. Count 3, conspiracy to commit
More than a decade later, the O.J. Simpson story took another twist. Here, CCTV vision captures him entering a Las Vegas hotel to steal what he claims was his own sports memorabilia. Simpson was given a hefty 33 years prison sentence, seen by many as justice overdue. Do you think he will ever make an admission?
I believe that O.J. Simpson will make an admission, but I think that he'll probably come clean on his near his deathbed. Hollywood may make him an incredible offer, and he may be crazy enough to take the offer.
Hollywood.
Yeah, it's Hollywood.
O.J. Simpson is expected to be released on parole next year. It may be the final chapter in a shocking and violent real-life story hijacked by Hollywood. What do you think O.J. Simpson is feeling?
He doesn't.
So even as he sits in his jail today,
doesn't
hoping to be paroled, he's not reflecting?
Probably not.
He's not thinking with regret?
No. He didn't do anything wrong.
He's still in denial?
Probably.
Woo, man. And then Kato, he was like, ain't that crazy? He's like, yeah, I'm not everywhere I go. I know the plate, I know the car, I know where I'm at, the song. What the hell, man? That's got to drive you nuts.
Absolutely.
To have your mind just filled with all that data that and he probably is writing it down, because if you're that crazy about knowing everything just in case, like, man, you probably have notes because you don't know if something's going to come back a month or a year later. And you got to go, yeah, on that day it's like keeping a diary, but not a diary of, things that you're going through or you want to express on a piece of paper. It's you keeping a timeline of your fucking whereabouts to cover your ass. That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's like post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yeah.
Exactly. Do y'all think that, and by the way, hi Yolie. I didn't even say hi to you.
Hi, Silky. It's okay.
Do y'all think when he pulled that Bronco stunt, do you think that he did it because he was terrified of going to jail and spending his life in prison, or do you think it was a breakdown from actually what he did?
I'll just keep my answer simple. I think he was based with what he did, and he didn't want to, I think he knew, like, I don't, with whatever happened with the trial is what happened, but I think at that moment he was like, I'm fucked. I'm going to prison for the rest of my damn life because I did this, which he should.
Yeah.
But he's so egocentric that why should I have to serve the rest? It's their fault,
Yeah.
It's somebody else's fault always when you're talking about narcissism and ego.
Yes, true.
It's always somebody else's fault. There's no accountability. And when, he was faced with the police, like, issuing him to come down, this was after the interviews, this was after, the talking and the offering, and he knew right then, shit, my game's up. I've lost. And I think he really was going to do it. I really do. I don't think he was joking. I don't think it was an act. I really think he was going to do it. Thankfully got talked out of it and then had to face the crime, but luckily got off. What do you think, Yolie? Why do you think he did the
I think
Bronco?
Well, I think that he was having a breakdown because of what he did, but he didn't know how to handle it, and he made a big scene because that's what narcissists do. They make big scenes, and they want people to feel sorry for them. And so I think that it was all related to what he had.
You don't think he was going to do it? It was just an act to get people
done,
to feel sorry?
or what?
Yeah. just get people
Well,
to feel
I
sorry.
mean, I think that it was some dramatic, because if you're going to do something like that, you're going to do it. I mean, there's,
I don't know. Maybe he wanted. I don't know. I think he did, and I don't think he wanted to do it while his friend was fucking driving. I think he was gonna try and get to Mexico and try and leave the country. Then he realized that all of a sudden he's not gonna make it because they're already hot on his fucking tail and they got helis in the air recording. So his game's up. There's no way he's crossing the border. At that point, that's when I think he was like, he really wanted to do it, but then not with being in the same vehicle as the friend. So then it was constantly like roadblocks that he was trying to figure out. All right, what do I do? So like, okay, Mexico was a roadblock. Shit, I can't do that. Man, I need to do. Okay, I can't do that because I'm with my friend. I can't even pull over because they're on my ass. So that's not an option now. All right, I guess I'm just going to have to go back. Because at the end of the day, it's going to be somebody else's fault. Always somebody else's fault. So then when he got to the point where he's like, I love myself too much, then I think it was like, okay, I'm just going to go ahead and, because he does love himself quite a bit.
Yeah.
You can tell. So I think it was just he didn't think people, when he was in Chicago for that golf tournament and he had the cut on his hand, I think that's when he thought it's a legitimate excuse people are going to buy, and I think when he came back and the people were like, no, OJ, it wasn't just you getting a cut from a smashed glass at a hotel room because we told you your wife passed away brutally. It's because you fucking had something to do with it. And then his game was up. Then it's like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit. How do I get out? How do I get out?
Do you think there was ever a moment, like even in the beginning, and I understand he's a narcissist, but do you think there was ever a moment that he was horrified at himself, maybe surprised at his own actions before he started, doing whatever narcissists do and saying, oh, it's somebody else's fault? Or do
I
you
think
think
he blacked out.
do you think like when he was committing the crime?
Yeah, I think he blacked out.
That's possible.
Yeah,
I think his rage and jealous took over and he snapped and listen to his interview from the
But he had been violent.
You listen to his
Sorry,
interview.
there's a
You listen
delay.
to his interview from the Lost Confession, and he talks about how it got to this point and this happened and this happened, and all of a sudden he couldn't remember. And I really think that because when you're talking about somebody that gets that rage and jealous to where they do those kind of acts, and then how bad it is when you listen to like the things that's going on in the calls and stuff, like that's some shit where people snap, yo, like, and they go into some fucking other, like a psychosis. That's like a psychosis, and they just, and then everything happens so quick and they're just going off of adrenaline and emotion. They don't even know what the fuck's going on. I'm sure if somebody sat them down and like a counselor or something, and you could dig it out, because it's a repressed or whatever memory, you're obviously going to remember. It's just all the stuff that took place. Your mind kind of goes into override. Go ahead, Yolie. Sorry about that.
That's okay. What I was going to say is that, he had been violent with her in the past. So, you have somebody who was beating on her and had these rages and where she'd be calling 911. So, it's not hard to believe that this one went further, and it went further because he saw her with the guy. And it's not very hard, it's not hard to believe. Whereas, in the Idaho 4 case, we have
He already
BK.
did.
We have BK who doesn't have a history of violence. And, those are the two differences. But
Yeah, he already called her
I think
multiple times.
he did snap OJ. Yeah. And she was already done with him. They were, I think they were at their daughter's party or recital or something, and she was just not having it with him. And then he saw her with a guy, and then he just snapped.
Well, he got mad at her because she was wearing a dress that wasn't appropriate for an elementary recital, is what he was saying. She was underclothed.
I don't remember that.
For the recital.
So long ago.
Yep. That's what he said. Yeah, that's what he said. That's why he said he got mad at her. And then started an argument. Then it went outside. They were still civil. He was probably just pissy. And then
does anybody know?
It just went nuts.
I haven't looked it up, but does anybody know how his relationship is with his kids now?
I'm sure I think it's fine. His son's been blamed a lot for it. The daughters, I've never heard anything other, from the family, like his kids or anything that he did.
So they must believe that he's innocent. Like, how could you maintain a relationship with your dad if you believed that he so brutally murdered you?
All right. Well, if your dad is doing it to the wife, he's probably doing the same shit to the children. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Maybe not that far, but and it may not even be physical, but it's damn probably mental. You know what I mean? Like of course it's their dad. He's found guilty. They don't want to believe that he did the crime, but at the same time, like, why do you think his son was getting accused? He was like the second most person getting accused of not only doing it, but maybe even being a co.
Yeah, I remember hearing that.
And same shit, you know what I'm saying? Rage, snapping, the anger control management, just all those different things, and it's the same thing. And I don't know. They have to believe. You know what I mean? Like, I get that he probably exudes so much influence on everything around him because he wants to control everything around him. And when you have parents like that, sometimes you just kind of you accept some of their outlandish bursts and behaviors, mood swings and all this other stuff, just because it's like, well, that's how they are, Yeah, he's gonna get mad because you put peanut butter and jelly on his sandwich together, so you don't want to get him upset, so just make sure it's just peanut butter, shit like that.
Yeah.
You already know it, like, just dumb shit. That's his chair, make sure you don't sit in his chair. Okay.
I mean, I get
Little
that.
kid shit.
Yeah, I get that because my dad was like that. Still is. But I mean, I don't know what the dynamics are of their family, but I can tell you with mine, once I was out of the house and he started that stuff, it was a no-go for me. I mean, I hate to say this, but in public, but I have called the police more than once to remove my dad from my property because he
Oh,
couldn't
wow.
respect my rules, you know.
Oh, wow.
And which weren't my rules were simple, don't be a
Right.
wagon, but but I mean, so like some kids do. So it makes me think: is he just that much of a smooth talker? Are they terrified of him? Does he have money that he's giving them, and that's why they're? I don't know.
Well, he is a smooth talker. I mean, we're just like they said in the beginning, he had all these endorsements and he was on hell. I remember one of my favorite movies from back in the day is Naked Gun with Leslie Nielsen,
Oh my
the
God, I love
three-part
those movies.
yeah, the 3-part series Naked Gun, and you got OJ in there. What was his name? Nordberg or something like that? I mean, he was everywhere.
Yeah.
Of course, he was a smooth talker. You have to be in order to be a public spokesperson and make deals like that and navigate all that stuff too, I don't know. That very well could be, Lynn, but unfortunately, we don't know the results of that until somebody already passes. There's no test to check for that before. So this is the first episode, OJ25. This is from Court TV. This is from 2 years ago. 2021. It's going to be coming up on 30 years next year in about 6 months. That would be fun for a movie night, wouldn't it? Freaking Naked Gun. I'm going to write that down. That would be fun. There's got to be some other way that we can hang out and not get in trouble watching movies besides Discord. All right, episode 1, Court TV. I think Roger Cossack is doing this, if I'm not mistaken. He also does sports, so you'll know him if you see him. Now, this is a very well done series that they did. They put everything in, I think it was 11 or 12 episodes that captured it from beginning to end. And then, like I said, we got a bunch of other stuff that we're going to be going through after that. So it'll be like the next 3 months on every Sunday. The next 3 months we'll be hanging out here going through this. So thank you all for hanging out. And please hit the like if you haven't yet. Extra important. Thank you.
The following program contains graphic images and language. Viewer discretion is advised.
On Sunday, June 12, 1994, the temperature in Los Angeles will get up to 77 degrees. NBA fans will watch on TV as the Houston Rockets win Game 3 of the NBA Finals, beating the New York Knicks 93-89. Gas at the pump is $1.09, and the stock market stands at 3,783. On the morning of that day, 2 people with a long, wrenching history of domestic violence wake up in Los Angeles. Though divorced, they've talked about getting back together. On this day, one of them is not ready to let go. The other is committed to moving on. What they can't know is that a forgotten pair of glasses will thrust a third person into their lives on this day. In the end, the result of that encounter will be devastating to them, to their families. And it leads to a trial that becomes a national obsession, a trial that underscores the racial divide in this country. O.J. Simpson was acquitted of the brutal double murders of his ex-wife Nicole Brown and her friend Ron Goldman. The verdict exposed deep racial divisions in this country that still exist today. Over the years, many have tried to explain the Simpson case, but we at Court TV believe the best explanation of what actually happened is the trial itself. I'm Roger Cossack, and this is OJ25. From the beginning, it is referred to as the trial of the century. The people's case? O.J. Simpson killed his ex-wife, Nicole Brown, and Ron Goldman. The timeline works. The evidence is clear. The defense? Simpson has been framed. Investigators were incompetent, biased, and rushed to judgment in a way that underscores a history of systemic problems within the LAPD. But before there are attorneys, before any courtroom moments, and before any of the nonstop news coverage, there's a story of murder. 2 victims brutally killed on the night of June 12, 1994. Their bodies are discovered on the walkway leading up to Nicole's condo in Brentwood.
The crime itself was about as horrific as you can imagine.
There was so much blood. You have to remember that Nicole was nearly decapitated and bled out on the sidewalk. Ron was stabbed a couple of dozen times, and there was lots of blood. And it was a very small area. And there were 2 little kids, her little kids sleeping upstairs.
The brutal murders occur in the upscale Brentwood neighborhood of Los Angeles, a safe place where wealthy people live, with manicured lawns and a sense of security and quiet.
Where it happened in Brentwood was a very safe community. I mean, you don't expect anything like that to happen there. People always say, that never happens here. That's what people would say about Brentwood.
During that June night, while watching the 10 o'clock news, one of Nicole's neighbors hears a barking dog wailing as if sounding an alarm. Another neighbor decides to take the lost dog for a walk and is led to the bodies of Nicole and Ron. During that same night of June 12th, O.J. Simpson is picked up by a limo at his home on Rockingham Avenue. He takes the red eye to Chicago for a business trip. Shortly after he arrives, the LAPD calls O.J. and tells him that Nicole has been killed and asks him to come back. They had seen a trail of blood at his house, and when they learn that Simpson is unharmed, they suspect he may have been involved in the murders. He returns to LA immediately, the police waiting for him at his home.
He was briefly handcuffed when he was talking to police, and a camera crew that had made their way around to the other part of the property captured it.
Meanwhile, the families of Nicole Brown and Ron Goldman are coming to grips with the sudden and awful loss of their loved ones.
First and foremost, Nicole was involved in her children's lives. Nicole was like a hands-on mom.
She looked glamorous. She was beautiful. She was vibrant. She was full of life.
Ron was amazing. From practically the day he was born, always an amazing young man. Always kind, always thoughtful. He was Kim's brother and best friend forever.
My brother was coming into his own at 25 years old. The closeness that we shared was undeniable, and that feeling of knowing that you always have someone that has your back. And that didn't change the older we got, and obviously the last act of his life proved that my brother and his soul was a protector.
Today, my office filed murder charges against O.J. Simpson.
Simpson agrees to turn himself in, but he never shows.
When he didn't show up, and then Robert Kardashian, his friend, reads this letter.
I think of my life and feel I've done most of the right things. So why do I end up like this? I can't go on.
The Los Angeles Police Department right now is actively searching for Mr. Simpson.
It's like when the Space Shuttle Challenger blew up, or when the Twin Towers were hit. You know where you were when that happened. It wasn't a chase in a traditional sense. It was O.J. Simpson reportedly in the back seat of a Bronco with a gun to his head, and you'd see people lining the overpasses, "Go, O.J., go," that type of thing, homemade signs. Because at this point, O.J. Simpson was still beloved, right? Nobody could believe that he would be a killer. It just didn't seem to make sense.
Simpson is a wanted murder suspect, 2 counts of murder, a terrible crime.
OJ, wherever you are, for the sake of your family, for the sake of your children, please surrender immediately.
Simpson eventually surrenders to police and is taken into custody. At the time of his arrest, O.J. Simpson is 46 years old, a legendary Heisman Trophy winner, a Pro Football Hall of Famer, a star with movie and TV fame. He has pioneered American advertising as one of the first African Americans to be a spokesperson for a major company. But now, he's a celebrity behind bars. When they meet in 1977, 30-year-old O.J. is married and Nicole is just 18 years old. They have 2 children during their 7-year marriage.
They were very much in love. I mean, they loved each other. They were husband, wife. They did, they traveled together. It was for a long time a very good family unit.
But what looks like an ideal marriage is actually a toxic relationship filled with violence.
Nicole? Oh, you still on the line? Yeah. You think he's still gonna hit you? I don't know. He's gonna leave. He just said that. He just said he ain't leaving.
He looked me in the eye and he said, "How can anybody think I'm guilty?" And I said, "OJ, everybody thinks you're guilty."
See? How could anybody think I'm guilty? Who knows? Maybe the signs of everybody cheering him on is what kept him from doing that to himself, too.
Yeah. And
that gave him the boost that maybe he could get away with it.
Yeah, and I think, him having that, I guess, hero status, which, by the time he committed that, he wasn't playing football anymore, but he was still an American hero. And I think it was hard for, some of us too, in the beginning, when it first happened, to wrap our heads around somebody like this that you looked up to could commit such a heinous crime.
Yeah, that too. I mean, you're used to him being in a comedy show if you didn't know him from football. I never watched him on football games.
Me either.
That was too early for me, but I remember him being a football star because of watching football. And then, my main exposure to him for me was the Hertz commercials and the Naked Gun stuff.
Yeah.
And then he would show up, as a commentator and stuff on football games and stuff. But.
Sure. And, like I said, he was still someone you looked up to. So, I don't think that now. Times have changed, and certainly I've grown a lot older. And, I now I don't believe anything anybody says. I'm like, oh, well, that's probably a load of crap. But,
Right.
So it wouldn't shock me now, but I think back in, what was that, 94?
Yeah.
Yeah. Back then, I think we were a little bit more innocent and hopeful, and it was hard to think, OJ, no, he couldn't have done this.
Yeah, we were still rocking to Nirvana, and we had Pepsi Clear, and we had all these things. We had LA Gear, freaking shoes that had double shoelaces on them, and the neon colors and all that stuff. It was definitely a time of excess. I'll say that.
Yeah.
Because everything was so cheap, and really, there was so many businesses that were making money, here. And after everything's done and over with, we find out that it's because most of the jobs got shipped overseas. But, and then, it's a different kind of effect. But yeah, it was definitely a different time. Like there was a lot of social media going on around then. I remember that's back when MTV would release like the top 5 music videos every week, and you could sign up for a club with MTV and get a VCR tape of the top 5 music videos.
Oh my gosh, the
for the
VCR
week.
tapes.
Yeah,
Ah,
yeah. So it was definitely that's
Oh
when social media
jeez.
was really starting. Really, back in the day, was things were getting sent through the mail, and you'd have different exposure that you would, because normally you'd just have to go to the record store to find out what the newest CDs were coming out and this and that. Um, but yeah, it was a different time. Like, you didn't the thing that you had to worry about was making sure you were in before the street lights shut off, because of all the kidnappings that were going on to kids. That was the biggest thing that I had to worry about as a kid. Was just it was all about kids getting kidnapped back then. That was the only fear that we had. And then when that comes around, then all of a sudden, yeah, it was like the first celebrity case too that was really highlighted, because I think that is when court TV kind of blew up, because they covered the case, and the filming, the footage and everything, and also ran that shit nonstop, and I think that's what helped propel their channel too.
oh yeah. And I look back on it now, and at that time, you think about like what Cato said, and even Johnny Cochran and Marcia Clark. Like, people were looking at her for fashion advice. Which her hair was a disaster, but I can't talk. This is a problem.
She did have a makeover.
They would talk about her suits, and
Yeah.
they all became celebrities because that
Oh
trial
yeah.
was so high profile, and they
Mhm.
were on in all these magazines and whatever. And I think that was like the first. That's the first I remember of things really being like that.
hmm Yeah, and I think that's where Christopher Darden fucked up, because he got too confident, being full of himself.
Mhm.
Because if you studied this at all, the prosecution, the rest of the people did not want to introduce OJ trying on the glove. And
Yeah, I remember
Christopher-
that. I do
Yeah.
remember that. Hmm.
Christopher Darden just pulled it out of the blue, and it had shocked even Marcia as she's sitting there next to him. But what can you do at that point, And
Yeah.
so I think some of them even, like with Marcia Clark, that was like celebrity bashing back then. That's why she got the frickin' makeover,
Mhm.
was
Yeah.
because people were criticizing how she looked, and so that yeah, it was one of those. It was like the introduction of social media and everything that comes along with it.
Yeah.
You respect her for fixing it. Well, we'll see it.
Yeah, she looks much better today. Yeah, she really does. But I tell you that glove. I mean, Mark Furman was a big question mark. But even if they could explain away, which you can explain the situation now, we know that. But it was never like the minute that glove did not fit. And then he had that slogan, if the glove doesn't fit, you have to acquit. Like, that was in people's heads. And that was, I think, the pivotal moment of that
Oh
case.
yeah. Yeah, they even asked him not to take his arthritis medicine for a couple weeks before, in case, because they had an inkling that they were going to ask him to do that with the glove, and so they had asked him a few weeks prior to not take his arthritis medication, so his knuckles would swell up as well.
Wow.
It was they when Darden did that, the defense was already prepared for it, and they just pounced on it. And yeah, it's that catchy slogan, and that's what people remember. That's why they have commercials for, cereal and shit. They come up with. I was watching these 80s commercials last night, and some of it, we got to do that sometime.
I
Where we
love
just hang
those.
out
I watched
at the
those.
lounge and watch 80s commercials, because man, when I'm watching, you guys remember the Total cereal commercials, and they were like, you have to eat 4 bowls of bran flakes to get the same
Yes.
nutrition as you do in 1 bowl of total. And everybody's like, 4 bowls? And it's just like, geez. You know, it's the shock. It's the key words. 4 bowls? And then all of a sudden you go to the store and you look at total and you're like, damn, 4 bowls of Captain Crunch. But so it's that wordplay, you know, and it was excellent, you know. If the glove don't fit, you must have quit. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I don't think it was Johnny Cochran that came up with that, right? Wasn't it somebody else? Does anybody remember this? I could have swore it was somebody else from the defense team that came up with that slogan.
I thought it was Johnny. You know, I just thought it was, well, Johnny Cochran was the one that was saying it, but I don't remember who came up with it. I don't remember.
Yeah, if anybody is, I think it was Carl Douglas that came up with it. I'm pretty sure. I'm gonna say, because it has been a long time since I went into this case too, but I did dive into it, and I'm gonna say with 80% certainty that somebody else was the one that came up with that slogan, and Johnny was the one that was able to use it and got credit for it. Wheaties. 4 bowls. And then they had a family sitting at the table for morning breakfast, and they had to whip out 12 bowls of the 12 bowls. It's like, oh my gosh, it is getting to be too much.
Yeah. Kay Miller saying something about, and where's the beef? Do y'all remember that commercial?
Oh my gosh, yes.
God. I remember, I was so young.
Where's the beef?
Yeah, I remember the first time I saw that commercial, I was laughing out loud, and I was telling my mom, "Oh, you should have seen this commercial. It was hysterical." Yeah.
Old lady. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wendy's.
It's a babe. Yeah.
They used to make T-shirts out of it. If you ever had a T-shirt before, let me know. They had T-shirts for it. They might be making them again because there's a lot of that shit coming back now.
That's
Where's
true.
Waldo? I loved Where's Waldo.
Well, you
Oh,
certainly
man.
can say that when you go out to eat now because of the economy and everything has shrunk. We were just talking about that today, like the size of the hamburgers and stuff.
Oh,
The price rose, but they shrunk. So now you could really do that,
When
go
it's made out of cheaper products at that too, because I remember McDonald's and Burger King used to taste like restaurant burgers back in the 90s too.
Yeah. Yeah, they were good.
They were damn good. It was damn good. Now it's gross.
I can't eat it. Blech.
It's gross. All right, we'll get back to this here. This is part 1, and we're probably going to see Marsha with her older dude there. Everybody's going back in time now. They're like, shit, I'm old. Yes,
I know.
we are old, everybody.
know.
We are old.
We are.
Jeez.
But we're doing it together.
Alan Dershowitz is just one of a remarkable lineup of top-tier, high-profile lawyers brought in from around the country by Robert Shapiro to defend O.J. Simpson, including the legendary F. Lee Bailey, DNA specialist Barry Scheck, and civil rights litigator Johnny Cochran, a group that comes to be known as the Dream Team.
At this time, you wish to enter a plea guilty or not guilty?
Not guilty. Your Honor, at this time, we would request under the law that we have a preliminary hearing as soon as possible.
I knew Johnny Cochran, and I knew Robert Shapiro from our days as undergrads at UCLA. I'd worked for the LA County DA's office and knew several of the prosecutors. After Simpson's arrest, Robert Shapiro asked me to attend a meeting. Almost every top criminal lawyer in Los Angeles was there. I remember Shapiro standing in front of us saying, "We intend to win this case. There will be no plea bargain." None of us
Wow.
thought he had a chance. During the 37 weeks of the trial, I was
will be no
occasionally
plea
made
bargain.
privy to defense strategies and insights that I've never talked about publicly. For example, one thing I feel has never been made clear enough is how Robert Shapiro put his own ego on hold and step back from the limelight in the interest of his client, something for which he has never been given full credit. The legal horsepower of the Dream Team brings into focus the role of celebrity in the Simpson case. Not just the fame of the defendant, but the legal resources he is able to afford. During the preliminary hearing and pretrial arguments, it becomes apparent that the prosecution is overmatched and outmaneuvered at almost every turn by the defense. For example, Mark Furman. He is a central figure in making the case for the prosecution as the investigator who says he found a bloody glove at the murder scene and another at O.J. Simpson's house.
As I walked closer and I got oriented to where this noise probably came from, I looked down and I saw a dark object. I was probably still 15, 20 feet away, and I kept walking closer. And then I saw when I was a few feet away that it was a glove.
Initially, and at the time, I felt Mark Furman was a good cop. And I thought he intuitively did some things, particularly at Rockingham, which were the hallmark of a good cop.
It's just business as usual. They made it something else that started ruining my life.
But to underscore how the prosecution is overwhelmed by the Dream Team, listen to how F. Lee Bailey turns Furman's history into something that makes the case for the defense, that O.J. Simpson has been framed.
Once Furman hits the stand, we're able to ask him, don't you hate black people? And haven't you said so on many occasions, and particularly this occasion, after you learned that this defendant had a romantic entanglement with a Caucasian woman? If the only evidence you have that this glove came from O.J. Simpson's home is Detective Mark Furman, that isn't enough evidence to convict a rat, let alone a human being. In addition to that, we have told you in our papers, and perhaps for the first time, that Detective Furman then went on within hours to suppress vital evidence tending to exculpate the defendant. So if he suppressed evidence and claimed to find incriminating evidence, I think we hardly need go further before we have the right to ask him, and by the way, haven't you said on past occasions that you are in favor of genocide? Because what he really said was, let's put them all in a pile and burn them all. And I haven't heard that come from anyone since Adolf Hitler.
Boom. They really did have a dream
That
team.
is exactly 180 degrees opposite of the truth.
But you don't want to hear the truth.
So this is false.
I don't have to call anybody a liar.
It's the opposite of what it is.
Yep.
That's the problem with them. They always want to label everybody.
Which
Rob
we know is
Thomas.
not true.
We keep hearing about the truth.
Very misleading.
I don't think they can stand the truth.
Again, completely misleading.
They are in for the fight of their lives.
All right, are both sides prepared to go forward, Mr. Cochran?
We are, Your Honor.
Mr. Clark?
Yes, we are, Your Honor.
All right, do the people wish to make an opening statement?
Yes, we do.
All right, you may proceed. Mr. Darden?
Did O.J. Simpson really kill Nicole Brown and Ronald Goldman? The evidence would show that the answer to the question is yes. O.J. Simpson murdered Nicole Brown and Ronald Goldman. Why would he do it? Why would he do it? Not O.J. Simpson, not the O.J. Simpson we think we know.
O.J. Simpson was beloved at the time. He was an icon, a hero.
But that raises another question, and that question is, do you know O.J. Simpson? The face you'll see will be the face of a batterer, a wife beater, an abuser, a controller. He killed her because he couldn't have her. And if he couldn't have her, he didn't want anybody else to have her. So you're going to be hearing evidence regarding domestic abuse, domestic violence, stalking, intimidation, physical abuse, wife beating, public humiliation. The
I
dominant
wonder how
theme
many
throughout
people
their
got annoyed
relationship
by that.
was his control of
Boom.
Nicole Brown. And the
Boom.
evidence would show in this case that this man is an extremely possessive, controlling individual. This is all part of his need to know where she is, to know who she's with, to know what she's doing, to control her. It's control. It's all about control. You'll be hearing evidence regarding an incident that happened on January 1, 1989. The 911 operator received a telephone call from Rockingham. We can hear the sound of a woman being beaten. Now, right now. And the officers arrived at Rockingham a short time later. And as she ran toward the officers, she was shouting and yelling, "He's going to kill me. He's going to kill me." And the officer said, Who's going to kill you? And she said, OJ is going to kill me. The officer said, "Mr. Simpson, we're going to have to place you under arrest. It appears that your wife has been beaten." And he responded, "The police have been here 8 times before. And now you're going to arrest me for this?"
She would tell me, she goes, "Denise, you know what? He's going to kill me one day and he's going to get away with it."
Finally, after 17 years,
Man.
he finally got the message. It finally became clear that she wanted to live her own life.
Christopher Darden grows up just north of San Francisco. He plays high school football and runs track in college. He joins the LA District Attorney's Office in 1980, working in the gangs unit, and then Special Investigations, which oversees cases of criminal activity by public officials and law enforcement. He's 38 years old, with 15 years' experience as a prosecutor when he joins the Simpson prosecution team.
The thing that I remember most about Chris is just how frustrated he would get and how personally he took the trial.
I liked Chris. I thought that he was busting his tail on a day-to-day basis.
I think it's fair to say that I have the toughest job in town today.
Chris Darden was accused of being put on this team because he was African American, not because he's a good lawyer.
Chris Darden, it was a very difficult place to be for someone like him. You know, helped the prosecution develop credibility with the Black community and the Black jurors. It puts him in a very uncomfortable position because he's sort of on the other team, so to speak.
It wasn't about anything except who committed a double murder. That's what it was about. It wasn't about race.
He was completely closed off, totally cold and unwelcoming, brooding. And then as the trial moved on,
Wow.
Chris softened and opened his heart deeper to my dad and I and our family. Chris and I
Wow.
are still super good friends.
What we've been seeing, ladies and gentlemen, is the public face, the public persona. It is not the actor who is on trial here today, ladies and gentlemen. It is not that public face. It is his other face, the one that Nicole Brown encountered during the last moments of her adult life.
Man, that's crazy that the sister of Ron Goldman said that Darden was basically standoffish.
At first.
Yeah,
And then he warmed up.
Right. But initially, yeah, that's what she said is he was standoffish.
Yeah.
I'm surprised at all that you would be standoffish to a victim's family member.
I don't know. I think it could possibly be what they were talking about. He may have felt, and I agree. They had to have an African American on that side. They just did. Otherwise, it was going to look. If they didn't, it was going to look like. I mean, I hate to say it, but it was. You'd have a whole bunch of white prosecutors. And then, you have this black man and Johnny Cochran sitting beside him. It would look more racial if they didn't. So maybe Chris felt like, he was there as the obligatory black person, which is wrong.
I know, but still, why? That's the dude's sister,
Yeah, but I mean.
Well, some people don't, and maybe he didn't know how to deal with people that are like grieving, and he just felt like kind of uncomfortable.
Well, they said that he was getting frustrated early in the very early on, they said he was getting frustrated, like he couldn't handle it. So he was taking that frustration.
Oh, couldn't handle the case, you mean?
Yeah, that's what they were just saying. That in the beginning, when they were talking about Darden, they opened it up with saying that in the very beginning he was very frustrated with, just probably all the attention and having the pressure and all that stuff. And then it sounds to me like he just took it out on the people that he was around, which he was probably around the family members a lot of the victims. Sometimes when, you're going through things that are really, it's a hard time. The people that you are closest to are the ones that you love. And unfortunately, because those are the ones that you spend most of your time around, then sometimes it goes in that direction unintentionally. So maybe it was just one of those things where he couldn't handle the pressure. He didn't mean to, but he didn't know how to handle it, and he couldn't snap at his coworkers. So maybe he was just snapping at other people. But as we get into it more, you'll see it. It's almost like he couldn't, like they said in the beginning, like he wasn't prepared enough to handle this kind of trial, obviously, because towards the very end, the dude went away and went rogue on his own prosecution team and introduced the glove, which was one of the pivotal moments that got the acquittal. I mean, you did shit on your own, even though, because you were so egotistic and cocky, which is something they said in the beginning here as well, that he was very cocky.
Yeah.
You go to take it on your own, and then look what happens.
Yeah. Can you imagine, though? These are the days before the internet. Can you imagine what, oh my goodness, now with all the web sleuthing and all the channels and all the talking heads, and I'm one of the talking heads, so what can I say? But, can you imagine this in today's, because we've had some high profile cases, but not with, other than Johnny Depp, and that whole thing, which wasn't a crime like this, Can you imagine what everybody would have uncovered? And would the trial have gone differently if you had, how we do, CJ and Yolie, we look at everything. We get on the Wayback Machine, and we get we get information that you thought was buried forever, and
and spot things that other people don't spot, and whether they're relevant or not, it just could take a whole different road. But the three cases that I remember that got all this started was the Rodney King, OJ, and then the Menendez brothers. And these were all in LA, so that's what I mean. I was really interested in all that, the court TV and stuff. But yeah, I mean, in this day and age, who knows what would have been uncovered in the OJ Simpson case.
Well, probably Mark Furman's recording we would have uncovered of him saying that shit, and then we probably would have been questioning the glove and the placement of the glove. But when it came down to OJ's real freaking liquid DNA being at the crime scene mixed in with all the other ones, I think we all would have came to the conclusion, it doesn't matter where the glove's at. The fact that his DNA is mixed in with everybody else's says right there.
Yeah, exactly.
I think that's where we would have
But then you
went with it.
Also would have had, like, how people do now, like you would have had a lot more vocal people that knew OJ, from waitresses to
oh
whomever.
gosh, I can imagine. I could imagine all the people that'd be coming out that knew OJ.
But it could have helped the prosecution also, even if we didn't have the other stuff to show his character. You know what I'm saying? If he had And, you know, the level of violence, like we knew that he was violent against Nicole, but, you know, what would everyone else have said? You know,
I'm sure he would have had. I'm sure he would have had a friend from college say that he remembered when he was pudgy.
yeah.
He would have had a buddy from college say, "Yeah, I remember when OJ was pudgy." Right? A whole bunch of them.
Well, I remember the date I went on with OJ.
Yeah, right. Yeah, there you go. There
we
you go.
met. We met on the newspaper.
We're about to blow up,
ads.
y'all. We're about to blow up, y'all. We have OJ's girlfriend on the fucking panel, everybody. About to make a 13-minute video and put it out on YouTube. I had OJ's girlfriend on the show.
Oh my god.
Oh yeah, the clicks and views, baby.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, it's what Debre said though. I think that OJ chase would have crashed the internet, like what she said. The chase would have crashed the internet 100%. 100% if we're comparing then to now. Yeah. But yeah. Oh, we're just talking OJ25. We're about halfway through this first episode, and then we're gonna go hang out at Harsh. He's got a live coming up in about 2 hours, a little under 2 hours, talking Idaho 4 and stuff like that too. And then we'll have our game night. So got plenty of stuff going on today. This is OJ episode 1, Kevin. OJ25. You missed out. Marsha Clark's Rob Thomas haircut.
The following program contains graphic images and language. Viewer discretion is advised.
And there he saw a sight that he'll never forget. He saw the body of Nicole Brown lying at the foot of the steps in a pool of blood. What I'm showing you here is a shoe print again. Right here, heel print, a bloody heel print, and another one here. What you see here is what officers Risky and Terrazas saw when they arrived at the scene. You can see here the paw prints. Officer Risky went all the way up to the end of the walkway in the bushes to a point where he was able to see at that point that it was not just Nicole, but also Ron.
There was an image that was projected on the screen of my brother's body that I had never seen before. And I remember feeling panic because I didn't know, I'd never seen it. I didn't know what to expect. And then Marsha turned around very quickly and apologized.
We did warn you, ladies and gentlemen, that this was a case that was going to have photographs that would be very, very hard to look at. We have to show you the evidence, and I apologize for the graphic nature of them, but this is the crime that we're here to examine. No one will argue about what the cause of death was for Ron Goldman.
What the hell? Wait a minute. Hold on. Did she say that she said that after she showed the picture? She didn't say it before? And she didn't warn the family? Like, we're going to be showing photos if you don't want to be here? Like,
that's exactly what it sounded like.
Especially if they've never seen him. Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
I can't imagine. And then after she turns, I got to hear this again. I don't know. Maybe I heard it wrong, but
no,
damn,
I think I heard it too.
Up.
I heard it.
Okay.
Bloody heel print, and another one here. What you see here is what officers Risky and Terrazas saw when they arrived at the scene. You can see here the paw prints. Officer Risky went all the way up to the end of the walkway in the bushes to a point where he was able to see at that point that it was not just Nicole, but also Ron.
There was an image that was projected on the screen of my brother's body that I had never seen before. And I remember feeling panic because I didn't know. I'd never seen it. I didn't know what to expect. And then Marcia turned around very quickly and apologized.
I warn you, ladies and gentlemen, that this was a case that was going to have photographs that would be very...
And then because she fucked up saying, well, we did warn you. Oh, man. That's so messed up.
very hard to look at. We have to show you the
Wow.
evidence, and I apologize for the
Wow.
graphic nature of them, but this is the crime that we're here to examine.
Wow.
No one will argue about what the cause of...
That means they weren't fucking prepared. Holy shit. How do you not?
Well, you know, I mean, this was such a high profile case. You'd think that they'd be thinking about those things, but maybe not. I don't know how that could slip by an attorney's mind when you're in a big, huge trial like this.
Right. Like you think about others before yourself, and then when you think about somebody else, and you, well, I would want to be one. You know, that's why you do the thing. I'm sure that's why you did. Went into the profession that you did, Yolie, is because you're thinking about others more than yourself, right?
Well, yeah. I mean, I have a fiduciary duty to my clients, which means I have to put them first, no matter what.
Right.
I mean, I can't, put my.
But what got you? But what gave you the desire to go that route? Was it not because you cared a lot about others?
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't like people getting hurt and not having any recourse. I mean, and it's one of these things where early on I sued public entities, and because public entities were getting away with things that they shouldn't be getting away with, and I felt like I will, hold them accountable. And then now I'm in medical malpractice, which is the same thing. Doctors, hospitals getting away with stuff, profits over people. And so, so I did get into it because of that. And so when I look at this, at Marcia Clark, I don't know if it's the pressure of being in such a high profile case and having to work with somebody else that it's like
but they're in LA. But they're in LA though,
Mm-hmm.
Like out of all the cities in the United States, they gotta be number 2 in the most crazy shit that they gotta do in court with trials, whether in New York being number 1, if not another city or whatever, but it's one of the top. So it's not like they're in Moscow. You know what I'm saying? And it has to be the pressure, because the reason I asked you about what gave you the desire is because it had to have given her and everybody else up there the same desire. Had to start from within, where you're caring more about others than yourself, because you're willing to make a career out of caring more about others than yourself. You're not going to a career where it's about you. You're going to a career where it's about others. And so when you have that initial desire, especially with the kind of schooling you have to go through to achieve what you do, why would you not? How could you not think about the family in an instance that comes up every single time you are discussing any kind of crime that deals with somebody passing?
Yeah.
So how could you not? It has to be pressure.
I don't know, especially images like that. I mean,
yeah. And you have a little slideshow ready to go. It's coming. You're using it. Even if, why not before you showed it? You can still, would that not look so generous and thoughtful? Even if you forgot to tell the family before the hearing started, you leaned over right before you showed the slide, and you looked over at the family in the crowd section, and the jury's watching you, and you say, "I'm sorry about these images." I'm sure the jury would have even went, "Aw," But man, to then go, "Oh, you know what? I told you guys this is what we were doing." Like that, it seems insensitive.
Yeah. It's Yeah,
I'm
it does
shocked.
seem insensitive. It seems like she's just a cutthroat. Like she just wants to get on, putting this case on, and she's not being empathetic toward the family.
I never knew that.
Especially with those photos. I mean, they're bloody. I mean, gosh, it's like I wonder what we would see if we saw the Idaho 4 photos. I don't want to see them, but look at that, how bloody that is. It's just,
yeah.
It's why wouldn't you warn the family?
Right, and they're seeing pictures worse than we are.
Yeah,
they're seeing pictures worse than we are. We've just seen his pants. In a little bit. You can see when they're showing the pictures on the smaller one, where she's showing him in court. You can see there's a bigger part to those pictures that we're seeing, and that's the stuff that she's seeing. And then she hears this lame ass, hurry up, quick fix. Well, I told you we were gonna talk about. I mean, that's just even worse. She should have just not even said nothing and kept rolling.
Right. Yep.
The death was for Ron Goldman and Nicole Brown. These are the blood drops at the Bundy location at 875 South Bundy. This blood drop that you see here matches the defendant. Matches the defendant. Matches the defendant.
See?
Matches the defendant.
There's no way.
Matches the defendant.
Wow.
You analyze the DNA and you see, can I exclude the suspect? Can I rule him out? Is there anything here inconsistent with the suspect? The glove that was found at the south walkway of the defendant's property at Rockingham revealed blood that was consistent with a mixture of Ron Goldman, Nicole Brown, and the defendant. Over and over again, we asked ourselves, can the defendant be excluded? And over and over and over again, the answer was no. The defendant cannot be excluded.
What's up, Moonbear?
Marcia Clark grows up outside Oakland, California. At 17, she is attacked and raped, something she later says influenced her decision to become a prosecutor. After law school, she works briefly as a defense attorney before joining the LA District Attorney's Office in 1981. By the time she takes on the Simpson case, she has won 19 of 20 murder trials.
Tough lawyer, very able, very prepared, very, very able.
Johnny Cochran was talking to jurors, and Marcia Clark was talking at jurors.
Marcia Clark was somebody who thought she knew everything, and she was arrogant and overconfident.
I can only reiterate that.
No, you don't need to reiterate if I've already heard it.
Whoa.
I apologize to the court. I thought that.
I mean, I can't keep doing these things over and over and over again.
She was, I would say, a tigress as a trial attorney. She had taken on tough cases under adverse circumstances and held up and prevailed. She was very facile with trace evidence cases, hair fiber, DNA, and the like.
The mere fact that we find blood where there should be no blood, in the defendant's car, in his house, in the driveway, and even on the socks in his very bedroom, at the foot of his bed, that trail of blood from Bundy through his own Ford Bronco and into his house in Rockingham is devastating proof of his guilt. And the results of the analysis of that blood confirms what the rest of the evidence will show. That on June the 12th, 1994, after a violent relationship in which the defendant beat her, humiliated her, and controlled her, after he took her youth, her freedom, and her self-respect, just as she tried to break free, Orenthal James Simpson took her very life in what amounted to his final and his ultimate act of control. And in that final and terrible act, Ronald Goldman, an innocent bystander, was viciously and senselessly murdered.
All right, we'll take a little break here again. How is he not guilty with all that damn DNA, a whole trail? Well, here's the thing, Lynn. As we get later on into the trial, and this is where it comes down to how important it is, how it's collected, how it's transferred, and how it's processed. They had shit sitting in a damn trunk. His DNA. It didn't get collected. It didn't get, you know what I mean? It was not collected properly, and it sat in a trunk. I think I hope I'm not remembering another case. I could be mistaken, but I'm almost thinking, didn't they at one point lose his DNA? It was like a short period they lost it, and they found it in the trunk, I think is what it was.
Gosh, you know what? I don't even remember. But there was an issue with the DNA. I just don't remember what it was right now.
I'm sure it'll all come back to us as we go, because it's been a long time.
It has been a long time. But I do remember that a lot of people were afraid that if they did find OJ guilty, that there would be riots because the Rodney King case. And so everybody was so worried about that. And I'm just wondering if that may have had an effect on the jury, but I don't think so. I think it was other stuff.
Yeah, I think Mark Fuhrman really, I think when it comes to OJ's defense team, Barry Scheck and F. Lee Bailey, but especially Barry Scheck, he was the DNA expert in this trial. And the prosecution didn't have somebody that knew as much as Barry Scheck did either. So when you listen to we will, as we get into this multi-part series, there will be a part where it discusses Barry Scheck, and you'll see, like, when it comes to the DNA and how all the DNA was there, it's also very important how it was collected and processed and all of that. And he's going to get into all of that because he's the one that knows how to create yes, Scheck is he's the one that knows how to bring up the reasonable doubt when it comes to DNA. And that's awesome that he's with the Innocence Project because he is way back then. And there's going to be points in the future where we watch the trial itself, and it won't be members only, but we'll actually watch the trial, and you'll see him in action, not just a 45-minute clip out of the series. You'll actually see him in action, and he really is. He was the DNA master back then, too.
As the first week of the trial unfolds, Johnny Cochran gives the opening statement for the defense. O.J. Simpson's lead attorney tells the jury the central themes of their case: sloppy police work and a rush to judgment.
The opening statement is not opening argument, but that's just that, opening statement. If you've had occasion to go to a movie, you know that there's something called the previews of coming attractions. And that's what this is supposed to be. It's supposed to be a guide, our roadmap, if you will, what we expect the evidence to show.
Johnny Cochran was a brilliant lawyer.
And here we are now in this search for justice. You hear a lot about this talk about justice.
His firm at that time was all civil rights police misconduct work, all civil litigation, no criminal.
Johnny Cochran, of course, had tremendous appeal as a trial lawyer, particularly within the African-American community.
I guess Dr. Martin Luther King said it best when he said that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And so we are now embarked upon
it's a great quote
for justice. this search for truth.
We're going from California back to the South. I wanted to go to this bathroom, and I wasn't mindful of any that, you know, blacks go one place, whites go another. And so I was going to go in this bathroom. This guy said, "You can't go in there, boy." That let me know there was a problem. And I remember talking to my dad about that. Now I was troubled by that. And again, that just reinforced my belief in that things should change and my desire to change things. My whole career has been trying to represent people who need to be represented, whose civil rights have been violated.
Johnny Cochran understands that on the heels of the Rodney King beating by Los Angeles police officers and the subsequent trial, the riots are a symptom of something bigger. LA is engulfed with tension, torn apart by racial animus, and policed by a department many fear instead of trust.
As a city, we were still really raw. We were still really feeling that pain that had just happened.
I knew Johnny Cochran for years as a friend and as a brilliant litigator who specialized in civil rights cases and believed strongly in the presumption of innocence. What most people didn't know was that Johnny's standard approach was to put the evidence on trial, question the investigators' professionalism and their motives. As Johnny told me one night at dinner, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Let me try to set the record straight for you. This glove was not found by them or the officers or whatever. This glove was found by Detective Furman.
The defense strategy was, you can't trust the message if you can't trust the messenger.
Detective Mark Furman will play an integral part in this case for a number of reasons. Now, it's very interesting that the prosecution never once mentioned his name yesterday. It's like they just want to hide him. But they can't hide him. He's very much a part of this case. We can only ask ourselves, why didn't they mention him? I think that answer will become very clear to you as the case progresses.
We proved that there was a rush to judgment, that the messengers were the LAPD, that they had made up their mind about who did this.
It didn't matter what the world thought. It mattered what those 12 jurors thought. And Johnny Cochran never lost sight of the fact that he was playing to those jurors.
This case is about a rush to judgment. There's a rush to judgment here, but they didn't want to listen because they made their decision in this rush to judgment. But as jurors, I'm sure you're not going to rush to judgment.
Johnny Cochran easily was the guy that I would have hired to join me if I'd been first in the case.
I mentioned before this crime scene and the number of people who were allowed to walk through there, many with just their shoes on, walking right through the blood.
Sound familiar, everybody?
Oh my God, yes.
Absolutely.
This is why I was so excited to start this series that we're going to have for members only, where we're kind of going through this, because really there is so many similarities people may not realize because of the huge facts, you know, the Bronco chase and, you know, the glove and all this other stuff. But really, when you break it down, there is a lot, how it was collected, the fact that some of them weren't wearing booties, proper protective equipment, not proficient in collecting crime scene evidence, obviously, and transferring it. I mean, all these different things, these little teeny things. You compare the glove to the sheath. But the one thing you can't deny is the other drips that were there. But at the same time, when you did see the drips, right, when they were saying here and here and here and here, if you don't remember, rewind it and you'll see them. They look like drips that could have easily also been just poured out of a vial. Because when I'm seeing those drips, they're not really around the other, right? You would think that there would be a mixture somewhere where they would have like dots all up right next to there at one of the locations of the bodies or something. No, these are different spots that are kind of like out here and out here and out here. So to say that it couldn't be a possibility. Yeah.
Like I like that quote, and I think that's what we're dealing with in Delphi. Is
injustice.
Yes, if you can't trust the messenger, you can't trust the message.
Right.
That is absolutely what I've been screaming. It doesn't make it necessarily untrue. I mean, but how are you going to believe what law enforcement says when they've lied about so many things? Then you have to think, well, are you lying about the evidence? Are you lying about this and that? I mean, come on.
Yeah. I have an autograph card. I'm just not telling you who's on it. But it's $100,000, right? You don't know if you can trust it because you don't even know. Just like the papers that the IGG that the court got. Yeah, it could have been. They already done said for all these months they've handed over everything. What do you think they gave yesterday? Come on, we'll see if it's a document drop, but I don't know. I'm not it could be a headline, a header with a signature. That's it. That's all we could find. That's all we could scrounge up. I'm just 99%. Ann Taylor's gonna say no. She's gonna say the exact same fucking thing she said at the last court hearing, and Thompson's gonna say the same exact thing that he said at the last court. Well, we gave you everything. I'll ask for more. She's gonna say it's not sufficient. Yeah.
I don't know. We'll see.
I don't know.
I'm on the fence about that.
I think there's going to be a court hearing this week here. Wednesday or Friday, I'm feeling. Watch, it'll be Thursday or something.
Some had gloves, some didn't have gloves. Picking up the evidence will become very relevant and important to you as you hear from the experts about the contamination aspect of this, and what it means, how easy it is, a sneeze, a touch, whatever, for this evidence to become contaminated.
The defense's strategy was to paint the law enforcement agents as bungling idiots, but yet they were smart enough to frame an innocent man, but they were too stupid to pull it off correctly.
We think...
I mean, it's so similar. Oh my gosh. I'm so excited we got to finally start this. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
This scene was tracked.
People just don't understand.
The gathering of evidence was a complete disaster. The evidence will show that the careless, slipshod, negligent collection, handling, and processing of samples by basically poorly trained personnel from LAPD.
Right. Poorly
contaminated, compromised.
I am starting to remember something about the DNA being in the trunk of somebody's car.
Yeah.
It's starting to come back to me. Anyway.
It's that's why, like, I know it's been so long, and I just remember a lot of the small shit too from back then. It's been a long time for me since this is a good refresher for me, even. But I could have swore they lost it for a bit. But yeah, it's when and this is why I love it, because we talk about Idaho 4. This is a case that is going to have the same ramifications, positive and negative. And when you really look down at the small stuff in this case, you're just like, holy shit, holy shit, holy shit. It all is like, is this how it's going to play out? I'm not saying, I mean, to me, this case is obvious to me. Like, I would always still preach innocent until proven guilty, but when it's different when you got drips there. Not saying that they couldn't have dripped it there as a plant, but it's a lot more convincing than 20 skin cells on the underside of a button of a sheath. It's a lot more convincing to me. So, but the same shit, be same questions. What's up, nothing half-assed? Aw, yeah, YouTube's been bugging forever for notifications, man. I don't understand it. They make enough money off of us. I don't understand how they can't fix their shit so it's flawless. Doesn't make sense.
And correct the DNA evidence in this case. This is, by all accounts, 21st century cyberspace technology that is being used by these police departments with covered wagon technology. The fact that blood mysteriously appears on vital pieces of evidence, and it's predicted what the results will be regarding DNA when that evidence is still in the police lab, is devastating evidence of something far more sinister.
Yes.
I want you all to remember that your conduct here will have an impact not only upon the welfare of your respective clients, but upon the image of our profession for many years to come. Those who say the criminal justice system itself is on trial may be correct in that observation.
I am absolutely appalled.
The people have a right to know.
They cannot shut me up.
They've been lied to.
I'm not going to hear it again. I've ruled.
They've been deceived.
That's why they lose cases sometimes.
Did you hear what I said about 2 minutes ago?
Whoa.
Everybody was under pressure. It was
Yeah.
a new age. It was a new age.
I got a phone call from Bob Shapiro saying, we'd like you to join the defense team. And I said, no, I can't, because I've already commented that I believe he's guilty. And Bob said, well, everybody thinks he's guilty.
The defense team is packed with big egos and some bold ideas on how to defend O.J. Simpson. Some of them Judge Ito allows, and some of them he doesn't.
Probably be times when I'd like Mr. Simpson to be able to approach the jury to demonstrate certain.
See that guy sitting there next to Johnny? That's Carl Douglas. All right. That is, and we'll see when we get into it, but I'm pretty sure that's the guy that came up with the slogan. If the glove doesn't fit, you must acquit. I could be wrong, but for some, in the back of my head, I'm like, yeah, that's the guy that came up with the quote.
And things I think are very relevant in the course of that opening statement.
It is only a blatant attempt to impress the jury with his charisma and star appeal.
The motion to allow him to exhibit to the jury his knee injuries or the result of the scarring and the surgeries will be allowed.
And I'd like, at this point, to have Mr. Simpson come over to the jury so I can demonstrate the problem with his knees.
This is an incredible moment. The person, O.J. Simpson, who's up for double murder, by the way, gets to walk up to the jury box right next to the jurors. Yeah, there are a few deputies there, but he's not in shackles. And he's making a connection with the jury out of the gate in opening statements. It's a huge advantage for the defense, and this is right out of the gate. Judge Ito allows this, unprecedented.
You have to look at circumstantial evidence. So the dog and the plaintiff whale and the evidence that was given by the dog walker, they just try to establish a timeline. And the timeline is loose because you don't know exactly when somebody was killed. You try to determine it based upon what else is going on and what else people are hearing or seeing.
Both sides fight hard to get the jury to believe their timeline for the night of the murders. The defense has to account for O.J.'s whereabouts at the time of the killings. The prosecution has to pinpoint the time of death based on a dog.
Now, what I'm about to describe to you is a series of events that proves that the murders occurred between 9:35 and 10:45 on the night of June the 12th. At approximately 9:50 p.m., Ron Goldman left the restaurant still dressed in his waiter's uniform, the white dress shirt, the black pants, and the black shoes. And his friends at the restaurant never again saw him alive.
She described for you how he was dressed. I think she said with some white shirt and black pants or whatever. You saw those pictures as terrible as they were. He was in some jeans and some kind of shoes that are far different. And the evidence will be he went home, dropped off a book, changed clothes before he came to Nicole Brown Simpson. But the reason that you weren't told those facts is because it's important they keep this 10:15 time.
10:15, Pablo Fenbez heard a dog bark. He remembered it clearly because the bark was like a plaintive, insistent wail. It was like nothing he'd ever heard before.
Ms. Clark kept telling you that she had to fix the time of death in this case at about, what'd she say, about 10:15? She had to make it 10:15, and she made it based upon a dog's wail. Now, this is the first case you'll ever hear where the prosecution's theory is that you've got to determine the cause of the time of death by a dog's wail.
That's
What
why
he
I just
noticed
said,
when he
huh?
pulled to that area that was right in his field of view is that there was no car parked there. No white Ford Bronco. And it was 10:39.
She said to you that the limousine driver, when he came and left to take Mr. Simpson to the airport, she told you that he did not see the Bronco parked there. It's not exactly what he said in his testimony at the preliminary hearing in the grand jury.
At 10:45, Cato was talking to his girlfriend Rachel when suddenly he heard on the wall where the air conditioner was 3 loud thumps.
They've got to keep everything squashed in there so they can tell you, oh, we had plenty of time to commit this crime. When we conclude today, you're going to see there was no time to commit this crime. And they have to tell you that it's about a dog's wail when a man's life is at stake.
Again, the similarity between the timeline, how they're getting the timeline.
Yeah, wow. I didn't realize there
And-
were so many similarities.
Yeah. How they got the timeline, how they obtained the timeline, that they're trying to keep it scrunched. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just like, whoa, 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 whoa. Thank you all for joining me on this first episode. I'm so excited we're getting into it because we're going to have a lot of conversation about both of these cases.
Is OJ physically capable of stabbing Ron and Nicole in such a short period of time? Now, the prosecution has a workout video that OJ made 2 weeks before the murders. The defense claims OJ was having an arthritis flare-up that made him too weak to commit the murders.
There will be testimony that O.J. Simpson suffers with chronic rheumatoid arthritis. When it's in an acute phase, he has great trouble functioning. We expect there will be testimony that on the date of June 12th, Mr. Simpson was involved in the acute phase of his rheumatoid arthritis. And on that date, after he had played golf, the problems with his hands were so severe he could not shuffle the cards where he played gin rummy at the country club thereafter.
Mr. Cochran made some comments to you about the defendant's alleged arthritic condition. According to him, the defendant's arthritic condition became acute sometime after he played golf and after he'd been swinging the golf club on the evening of June the 12th at about 10 p.m. He said at some point after that, the arthritic condition became acute. Mr. Cochran told you that the defendant's physical capabilities are very limited as a result of that condition. The prosecution will show you evidence to the contrary. We will show you outtakes of an exercise videotape which was made by the defendant only 2 weeks before the murders. We will show you a portion of that videotape to demonstrate just what the defendant's physical capabilities really were on the evening of June the 12th, 1994.
Get real. Get real. Let's try it one more time. Okay, go. See. All right. After all of these years, you know what I mean?
The defendant prided himself in that tape on being in good physical condition. You will see him doing push-ups. You will see him lifting his arms
The old
overhead.
workout
Stretching out
videos.
upper body by reaching for light, or reaching for the air.
You will see him stretching.
This is a chest stretch. Just get those arms back, push them out, push that chest out there.
We're going to show you that tape during the course of this trial.
The days were very intense, and they began first thing in the morning and went well into the night. In addition, for a little bit of time to think of other discussions, excuse me, I need to slow down myself a little bit, Your Honor. Give me just a moment. Yesterday, the other day, the court said it had to take a deep breath. Allow me to take one, too.
I've had long experience with Mr. Hodgman. I've known him as a colleague and as a trial lawyer, and I've never seen the expressions on his face that I've seen today. What I'm asking you to do is take a few deep breaths, evaluate what you have, and then come to me with a proposal as to how we proceed tomorrow morning. And I suspect you may unplug your computer and take it home with you tonight.
Maybe a long time before I get home tonight, Your Honor.
He was disoriented. Later, he was complaining about chest pains and other physical symptoms.
We were working until approximately 1:30 in the morning, and we were doing so without the benefit of the assistance of Mr. Hodgman, who was taken to the hospital at I believe, approximately 6 p.m.
I discovered as a result of getting tested that apparently I had an abnormality in the musculature of my heart, which had proved fatal for certain athletes historically, and I had the same thing. So that was an awkward and kind of shocking revelation.
What was that Suzanne Summers thing for your legs? Speaking of workout videos, remember those commercials?
Thigh Master.
There you go.
Thigh Master, yeah. Those cheesy ass workout videos. I bet you when it comes to trial and we see, you know, everybody in the courtroom, fingers crossed, I think it's going to look just like what we're seeing here. I think Ann Taylor is going to attack this shit like Johnny Cochran was attacking this shit for OJ. I think she's going to come out. Because you're looking at the prosecution, they're fumbling, you know. You can see them fumbling from the beginning. I think you're going to see that when this comes to trial. I think you're going to see the Latah County prosecution fumble. I think you're going to see Ann Taylor attacking it, the facts and the evidence, like Johnny Cochran was attacking the facts and evidence for this case. So many questions. A lot of people, though. You can tell a lot of, even the judge, he was getting snappy as well. You know, with people. So it's right now, you know, like you see the kind of pressure they're under right now. Imagine when the trial actually starts. Vidal, the Sassoon, and Pert Plus. Oh yeah. You hurt yourself on the Thigh Master. Oh shit. Ouch. She said she pulled something. Oh no. I bet that took forever to heal. Shit. Especially
I know.
a thigh.
Look, I found one. This is probably about 10 years ago. I found one in a thrift store, and I was like, "Oh, I remember this." And I couldn't even push that thing together with my hands. I'm like,
oh,
if
yeah.
I got this out down on the floor with this, that'd be the end of me. I'd just be stuck there.
Len says the tension ball was no joke.
Yeah, I never tried that.
Oh, y'all are funny. Oh no, I just saw those exercise videos and it just made me see that because she was wearing like a blue swimsuit or something when you would see the commercial. I remember seeing the commercial. She's wearing like a blue swimsuit with the, and if I'm not mistaken, wasn't the tension ball like a blue as well? It was like all blue mostly. I thought the whole Thigh Master thing. So, funny. The tension ball.
All right, guys. Okay. All right, guys. See you guys. I'm gone.
The scene outside the courthouse looks more like a circus than a trial.
Gentlemen, please let me get to the car so we can go.
There really hadn't been frenzies like that before, where there was just 24/7 coverage, where there were dozens and dozens and dozens of cameras.
The scene is much the same immediately outside of the courtroom.
The scene in and around the courthouse I would characterize as just crazy. And I remember Marsha and I looked at each other, and the thought that passed between us was, we can't do this.
Inside the courtroom, a single camera is mounted on the wall above the jury box. It opens up the trial to a worldwide audience of 50 million viewers.
It was really the first case of its kind where people could watch from start to finish and
That's a nice
watch it
camera.
unfold and be frustrated because this was a real life soap opera.
The headlines are everywhere, but looking at the coverage, it's almost like the country is watching two different trials. On the one hand, the trial shines a spotlight on mainstream media's racial blind spot, starts a national conversation about domestic abuse, and the reality that African American and white communities have vastly different experiences and impressions when it comes to law enforcement. On the other hand is the Los Angeles Sentinel, one of the oldest Black-owned weekly newspapers in the country. It breaks with the national media and covers the trial with a clear pro-defense perspective. Its articles are syndicated coast to coast to other African American papers.
The perception that Black America had about this case was largely filtered through the LA Sentinel, in distinction to, say, the more mainstream coverage of the case.
The Sentinel always carried the news and from a perspective of the African American community. So it was nothing new to us that the Sentinel was front and center in terms of carrying the story, and the story that was coming from us, that was best known to us.
The Sentinel faces head-on the issue of race as a factor in the Simpson trial, in a way that is very different from national news organizations.
The LA Sentinel started with the presupposition that we cannot believe anything the police say, and that they have to prove what they're saying before we're going to believe them.
It appears that Mr. Cochran and I, the only two Black lead lawyers on each side of the counsel table, are somehow dragged into this issue to argue the issue to the court. And I think that may be due in some part to the fact that if anybody should slip and say or utter the word, it's probably better to have a Black person do it. If a white male takes the witness stand and that word is uttered in this courtroom, it will offend every Black juror on this case and any other African American within earshot. It is so prejudicial and so extremely inflammatory that to use that word will evoke some type of emotional response from any African American.
I would be remiss were I not at this time to take this opportunity to respond to my good friend, Mr. Chris Darden. His remarks this morning are perhaps the most incredible remarks I've heard in the court of law. His remarks are demeaning to African Americans as a group. And so I want to apologize to African Americans across this country. Not every African American feels that way. It's demeaning to our jurors to say that African Americans who've lived under oppression for 200 plus years in this country cannot work within the mainstream, cannot hear these offensive words. African Americans live with offensive words, offensive looks, offensive treatment every day of their lives. But yet they still believe in this country. And to say that our jurors, because they hear this offensive word, they hear every day that people call, that they interact with people. We've heard this in the questionnaires. To say they can't be fair is absolutely outrageous.
Week one of the People versus O.J. Simpson ends with the prosecution on the defensive. But when the first prosecution witnesses testify, the defense goes after one of them only to have that effort backfire in a big way. That's next on week 2 of OJ25. I'm Roger Cossack.
And Roger, we will be joining you next week. Next Sunday for week 2, Roger. And hopefully all y'all will too. So what did you think about episode 1? It's nice kind of getting a blast from the past, refresh on kind of some of the stuff. Some of the things we might not even have known. Like, I didn't know that Marsha didn't warn the family members about the graphic photos that were going to be shown. That they had never seen either. So.
Right. Oh my gosh, they had to be. I can't imagine being in a courtroom and having cameras everywhere, knowing that they're on you and you're seeing these pictures for the first time. Oh my God, that's horrific.
Yeah, and I think that some family members are given the option that they don't have to show up when they're going to show those pictures, you know.
Right. You think
But
you
to
would
not
give
even
them
know, you know.
You think they would give them that option, like, look, today we're gonna, or even like, hey, when you talk before court starts and you go, look, there's gonna be a certain part in this hearing, we're not sure when because it's unpredictable, but at some point today we're gonna be showing photos. So when I look over at you and I say, I apologize, that's your cue. If you feel comfortable at that point, then go ahead and leave or stay. It's up to you, but that's your cue that this part is coming up. So then you can let her process it and think about it while the court, probably that would have been the best way to handle it, I think, is let them know, let them process it. And then when you give them that cue, then they already know, okay, because when they're getting to the court hearing, they're in the court hearing, they know it's coming up at some point. So they've already made whatever decision it's going to be to make them feel comfortable with whatever they're about to see or hear.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's that right there created PTSD. That move by Marsha Clark.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. And until we started looking at all this, I had no idea. You can't go from memories. Like, somebody says, do you know about the OJ case? Yeah, I know a lot about the OJ case because I followed it so close. But that was a long time ago. And I had not thought about comparatively, the Idaho 4 case and even some elements of Delphi. Like, oh my gosh, this is really worth going back and looking at.
Yeah. And there's a lot to it. It's like I said, it's going to be the next Sunday, every Sunday for the next few months. We're going to be having this members only stuff. And that's why I was like thinking at the same time, for maybe the people that can afford it, I was thinking about maybe putting it on a delay of some sort. So yeah, if you're a member, we get to do it live. We get to have these conversations live. But for the people that, are on hard times as well, I think it's something that's going to be beneficial for them to sit back like a night that I'm not on or something, and they're bored or they're on a long drive somewhere. They can even listen to it like a podcast and have us listen and to what we're listening to and then discussing it. So I think I really think with this one, I'm going to have it like on some kind of delay. So like maybe when we get to our episode 3 is when maybe I'll release episode 1 for everybody else, because I think it's very important. It's special that we all get to do this, but I think it's really important for everybody too, because like we're saying, there's so many things that we remember that case, but then when you look into it, you start to go into it like we are. It's almost like a deep dive in a way, so to speak. There's going to be things that are like, oh wow, yeah, I forgot, or no, I didn't even know that stuff. Like this first episode, something I didn't even know, and I've done quite a dive on this case throughout time. So yeah, just hearing about that, about the sister, is just like, damn, I can't imagine. And then seeing it too,
Yeah.
And
it's
she
almost
looks
like you're there
upset.
walking up.
She looks
It's almost like
upset
you're there
too.
walking up to it. You get that same shock, like you're walking up to it because you never seen it, you're not expecting it, and then boom, it's
Yeah. Wow.
a lot of pressure though. A lot of pressure. Yes, so we'll do episode 2 next Sunday at noon, 1 Eastern. We'll just keep it on a every Sunday thing, and then or maybe if I don't, we can make clips of it or something like that, or something. I want to do something where I make some parts available too, or maybe just have a couple episodes for members and I don't know. We'll figure it out. Something special for everybody, though. But thank you, everybody. I can't wait to do many more. It's going to be a lot of digging into it. A lot of stuff you probably don't even remember.
I know. I mean, geez, it's been so long.
30 years. It'll be 30 years next year, right? 30?
Yeah. Jeez.
30 years next June.
Really?
Yeah.
I can't be that old.
I know
Oh
what I'm saying. I'm like, oh my God. But there's a lot I don't remember. There's a lot I do not remember. And this is a good refresher.
Yeah. Man, I didn't feel old until right this second. Thank you.
Right?
That Thigh Master took everybody for a spin, didn't it?
Who that just came out of your head, CJ?
I remember because I remember I remember seeing it just took me back to when I was a kid sitting in Indian style watching TV, and seeing the commercial of the Thigh Master. And who was the lady that always had those exercise videos? Jane Fonda or Olivia.
Yeah, you're right.
Jane Fonda. Yeah, like I always remember seeing those commercials and stuff because I'd watch TV like really, really late. So you'd see all those late infomercials. It was the beginning of infomercials.
Of the infomercials,
Yeah, the beginning of the infomercials. Buns of Steel. Yeah, so
Buns of
shit like that. Right?
Yeah. Oh my God.
Wow. Thank you, everybody.
So easy.
I know.
Yeah, it's like they were saying, because I remember, I never used one, but I remember seeing her, do that on the commercial. And then all of a sudden I'm sitting there seeing people in chat going, damn, that tension ball's no joke. And people are pulling ligaments and tearing muscles and shit. And I'm like, damn, how in the hell did she do that then?
I know.
The poor guy she was dating. Oh my God.
Exactly. Like,
right?
If you could work that, like if that was
Jeez.
real Thigh Master and they didn't have a special, like if they didn't have it set specially for her and she was doing that, like those legs are a lethal weapon.
Yeah. You think you're playing around with your girlfriend and she's got her legs around your neck or something, just playing with you, and then she gives you the Suzanne Summers Thigh Master squeeze, and you're just babe. Yeah. Don't mess with me, Billy. Don't mess with me. Okay, babe. Yeah.
I told you. I warned you. I've been working out.
Oh my God.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, 30 years. It is crazy. Calvin's in Jordache. Yeah. I know.
Yeah.
I love the Z Cavarici jeans back then. Those were, I love those jeans. All right, everybody. Thank you so much. We got Harsh's live coming up in an hour. So if you guys want to come hang out with us over there, and then we'll be doing game night later on this evening. Oh, that was funny shit. Thank you all for hanging out. This is going to be a weekly thing. Like I was saying right here, I wanted to figure out something special for the people who aren't able to afford, because I think it's going to be the information, but definitely if you want to join the live conversation, we're going to be doing this every week. The members only is going to be the next episode, 12 noon Central, 1 o'clock Eastern. Then we're going to play the previous week's members only live on Sunday nights at 6:30 Central, 7:30 Eastern. And no, thank you. And thank you for the members. I appreciate your memberships. And also we're going to be having we're going to try and get Harsh on one of these with us. I don't know. If I could talk to Harsh and we figure out a way that, I think it'd be great if you wanted to hop on these. Because we get Yolie, maybe Andrew, Laney Law, Harsh, everybody. We get them all on here, have a panel, and do these members only. You don't have to be a member to be on the panel, so I think it'd be really cool. But thank you all for hanging out. It was definitely need F-bombs. There wasn't too many, was there? But it was definitely weird. I loved hanging out with you guys in chat. It was cool. It was definitely neat. And I'm so glad that thank you all in the members live earlier that we had. We kind of, you know what? Yeah, let's go ahead and do this on Sunday night. Yeah. So thank you to everybody in the members only earlier today when we kind of came up with a decision on how we're going to do it for everybody. So thank you so much. I appreciate all your guys' support, your kindness, your conversation, your company, your peaceful, positive, and progressive approach. It means a lot. You got to have some comedy at the end, especially when you got Silky and Yolie on panel with you. But we're going to go ahead and end the evening. Thank you so much. Tomorrow, we're going to be having an Idaho 4 episode where we play the latest episode from Andrew and Lainey Law. Shout out to them. Love the neon justice sign in the back of Andrew, and then the guitar and the games for Lainey Law. I mean, you couldn't ask for two more hit people, you know? So shout out to them too. Thank you so much for the shout out at the end of the show. It means a lot to us and the community. And thank you to the community for all your support that you do in the whole true crime community, because no matter where we go, you guys are always so supportive of everybody else too, not just here. And it shows that it's true. And that's why I appreciate that each one of you are a part of this community. It means a lot to me. So thank you, everybody. We'll see you tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Central, 11 a.m. Eastern. We got a lot of good stuff to go through. We haven't had Idaho 4 in a few days. We're going to have one tomorrow. Good night, everybody. Thank you.